things on?
Fringes.
Fringes, yeah.
Yeah. I made them really long on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be hard to play with that one.
Yeah.
Probably not. Sure, there's a way.
You know the Midnight Ramblers?
Yeah.
The bass player played with this
Okay.
on New Year's Eve.
There it is. That was that speaker box. Yeah. All right. Welcome back to the Roman Anton Podcast. I am Roman Anton, and I have Jason Pochapsky.
Yeah, Pochapsky, yeah.
Pochapsky. It could have been Pochapsky. It could have been Pochapsky.
Or Pochapsky.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That reminds me, a lot of people call me Pork Chop because...
Pork Chop.
Well, but it started in high school, and I just rolled with it. Why not? Call me Pork Chop if you want.
I would rather call you Mr. Svarshik, but we'll get to that.
Sure.
Thanks for coming in today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So we've met through mutual friends.
Yeah.
And I heard about this man who makes elaborate designer. I'm going to call it designer. That's probably a wrong word, but leather jackets, pants, and accessories. And it was beyond my comprehension. And I think Matt Fisher may have described it again, and it became even further beyond my comprehension because he moved into the outfits that you wear for Svarshik. So I lost track of it. And then when you finally sent the website, which I could have very easily found it on my own, but you sent it, so thank you for that. I saw is sort of mind-bogglingly complex but cool designs that you've agreed to show us later in the performance portion of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I have skills, like I know how to sew and cut leather, and then I guess I have a good sense of color and stuff. So I try to try, typical black leather jacket is fine, but I like to brighten things up a bit.
And, if you want to get that straight on.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can adjust it and turn it, but you can hear the difference in your headset maybe.
Yeah.
So this is what you gave me when we met. Frank, we'll cut this in and show a close-up of this because it does different colors. And you were wearing an outfit similar to that, but not that one. And you were playing a synthesizer. So I'd like to work into that because it was a combination of a lot of things. And then I watched the video clips you sent me, and I really sort of lost my ability to explain what it is you do and what you like to do. And so I'd like to move into that because it's there's a SoundCloud clip that you have called Drowz that I thought was really interesting. And I want to talk about it musically, but I also want to talk about it because it's just sort of very far outside the realm of what I'm used to hearing and dealing with. But I thought, wow, this seems like it's moving towards the future of what we're going to be listening to more and more of. I think things are moving in your direction. So Canadian by birth, American by birth, other by birth?
I was born in Alberta, Canada.
Nice.
Yeah. Nearest big city was Calgary, but I'm born in a town called Olds. Like old with an S.
And is it old?
It used to be called Hay City. That made more sense, I guess. But then I don't know why they chose Olds.
Mr. Olds.
Yeah. It's a small little town. I think when I went to school, it was about 5,000 people. And it might be up at around 8.
And it's still Olds.
It's still Olds. They have an agricultural college there as well. So that brought students into town.
So if I were a Thai listening to this podcast and you were describing where you're from, is Canada's above the United States in geography and many other things. And where is Alberta in relation to Canada? Middle, center, right, left?
It's Midwest. So we don't have we don't touch the ocean. It's a mix of prairies and Rocky Mountains. So really good farming soil. My parents and my grandparents emigrated from Ukraine because they were farmers, and there was incentives to move to Canada at that time and incentives to leave Ukraine.
Your parents and grandparents?
Sorry, on my dad's side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad's parents emigrated from Ukraine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
So so it's a really good farming soil, and then cold winters, hot summers, kind of like sometimes like say it's like Canada's Siberia.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough. So Siberia, there's really not a Thai version.
Not unless
Mesa on December 28th on the warmest day in Siberia and Olds is half as cold
like
as
31 degrees Celsius is a really hot summer day.
I don't know this. Does Canada do Celsius or Fahrenheit?
We do say.
Good. So we're in Canada. So Alberta, Vancouver, West Coast, Montreal, East Coast-ish?
Yeah, so
No.
Vancouver is west of where I grew up, and Montreal is east. And then if you go further east, you're into the maritime provinces like Halifax and Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island.
Right. So a big, wide expanse, and you're sort of in the middle of it in the heartland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up in that Wisconsin area in Wisconsin. So not similar, but
Right.
somewhat.
Yeah, we share a border with Montana.
Yeah.
And Washington State, Idaho. No, does Idaho touch it?
Yeah. Okay. So Canada. Yeah. So we had a guest, Adam Jang, on twice. Yeti Valhalla. We toured with him. He's a musical friend of ours, and a friend of ours, and he's from Vancouver. So I just for people who listen, you guys grew up far apart.
Yeah, it's about a 11-hour drive
Yeah.
from Calgary to Vancouver. Canada's huge.
Expanse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a lot of population on that ride, right?
No. I don't know what we're at. I think 44 million in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much space for but it's cold, so maybe that's why not a lot of people live there.
Yeah, but it's not. I remember going through a town in Canada that produced nickel. It's not like the surface of the moon.
Oh, yeah, Sudbury.
Yeah, right. Right. So you could live in those areas. It'd just be cold, and you'd have to have some gas or some solar thing or something, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. We can't live without that energy.
All right. I don't want to dwell too much on the niceties of Canada.
But Sudbury, there's a good song called "Sudbury Saturday Night" by Stompin' Tom Connors, country folk musician. I'll share that with you later.
All right. I wrote it down just in case.
It's a good one.
It may be closer to, if there's a video of it, it may be closer to Mr. Svarshik than we can command it. Okay, so good. So did you run out of that part of town as fast as you could, or did you, or the country as fast as you could, or did you hang around until you're 18, or did you get to the big city? Because I sense there's some schooling over in Montreal, which...
Yeah, so I didn't want to take over the farm, and there's various reasons for that, but I had always romanticized about fashion. So, I grew up. My mother was Mormon, my dad wasn't, so I grew up kind of Mormon, and so when you're a Mormon and you're in your late teens, they start to talk to you about going on your mission,
Right.
and preaching the gospel. And
So that means hitting the road, leaving, going somewhere in the world, right?
Right.
Not just down the street to the Smith's house. It's
right.
go away for a full year, 2 years, 3 years, however long.
It's I think at times it's 18 months, and then they'll adjust it to 2 years, depending on how many missionaries they have in the queue, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So is mom farming with dad, or is mom taking care of the home and the family, or what's the?
My mom was a housewife.
Okay.
And she, like when it was harvest time, she would bring meals out to dad and I, or my brothers, on the combine or in the grain truck, depending on what your role was. But,
Yeah. Nice. What was the crop?
Primarily barley and canola seed.
Canola seed.
Yeah.
Right. Does that grow yellow as a flower?
Yeah. The
Is that
flower.
also rapeseed, or is that a different?
Yeah, I think they just decided to go with canola because
It's
it
softer.
might sound a little bit better.
It's marketed better to. Hey, we just call it anything. Oh, canola. Yeah, better than that other one. Okay, yeah, because in Scotland, I remember I was like, God, it looks and smells sort of similar, but what's with the naming? Okay, so there you go. So short season, I would expect July, June, I'd say May 20 planting to September 18th.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's just cold and dead.
If it doesn't snow in September, and then
Right.
you're still waiting. I remember being my dad joking he was going to put Christmas lights on the combine because the snow came a bit early and you have to wait for it to thaw.
Does the crop die when that happens?
No, but the quality goes down. It's actually usually cut like swathed and lying down.
I see.
Then it'll get a layer of snow on it, but the combine can't process that, and it will go in the bin wet and rot anyways. So you have to kind of cross your fingers. And yeah, that's one of the reasons I probably didn't want to choose that career path. But kudos to those guys that do it.
Well, you did it, so kudos to you as well. So you got your dirt under your fingers, or whatever the expression is. So, and were you going to school at that time, and was school emphasized in the family as a priority, or?
I did high school and I was an average student, I'd say.
In Olds?
In Olds, yeah.
Yeah. 30-person class, 20-person class, 10-person class?
Yeah, 25, around there, 25, 30. Yeah.
All from farming families?
No, there was, people from the town and different walks of life,
So none of this is, the reason I'm asking in such depth, and I apologize if it's invasive, but is none of this suggests I would understand why you're making those jackets or why you're writing your songs. So I'm waiting for you to hear, oh, but wait. So you all the way through high school or grade school, you're helping with the family. So obviously you're not driving a combine at 8, but
no. And I had 2 older brothers, so I actually started a little bit later because I wasn't needed on the farm. So,
right.
But yeah, just regular chores. But I guess when I was 14, I had my learner's license, and that's when I would have been on a tractor or
doing the work.
Yeah.
And so, what does the farming family do then for the off season? Cold, because you've admitted it's a cold place. Are there things you grow in the winter? Do you have dairy cows, or is there something else that happens?
When the market was right, we'd have cattle. We had a corral, but I remember years when it was just not worth it, and the corral was empty. Pigs, we had farrowing crates, so it's like basically you get your sows pregnant and you let them, they have their baby in this like cage, and they can eat and stuff, but they can't move around. I guess the worry is when they're not in the crate, sometimes they kill their piglets. Sometimes they just lie down on them by accident. So, so they're in there for about a month until you can wean the piglets from them, and then you release them.
So that was in the winter time or early winter?
Yeah, that was what we did in the winter. Yeah. We'd get a bit of livestock, or we had chickens every year, and we'd butcher them for personal use. One of my first sources of income was washing eggs, like collecting eggs, washing them, and selling them at church for I'd sell I don't know if you had it in the States, but we had ice cream that came in like a
pail,
a 4 liter gallon pail. Right. And I'd fill it up with eggs. So I don't know how many dozen were in there, but probably close to 3 or 4 dozen.
Right, I would think, right?
Yeah, and I'd sell them for
were they grade A?
$4.
Grade A or big eggs?
Well, they were big.
So a week's work, you were getting quite a few eggs.
Yeah. Like more than enough for the family, and some for me to sell at church.
Church, Mormon church or Catholic church? Dad's church or mom's church?
Mormon.
Okay, and so hundreds of people or many people would go, and you were the one who had eggs, and that was sort of an agreed to social contract that you got to do the egg run on Sundays, because you wouldn't go on Saturdays, right? Or you wouldn't go on Fridays.
I think it was more like voluntary. It was like if I needed the money, I'd be motivated to get it. But it wasn't. I didn't have. It was just a suggestion by my parents, but not really a duty.
Yeah, but an outward demonstration that you're sufficient. And so, did you learn the nature of the sale, the art of the sale, the art of the deal? Was this your Trump moment where you would try and rob your fellow parishioners from their hard-earned money?
Yeah,
these are better eggs than last week, or was it?
Yeah, no, I think I had some repeat customers. One of the Mormon leaders was a doctor, and he liked that they were like sort of free-range eggs, which if you crack open a factory or egg, the yolk is actually it's more of a yellow hue, whereas a free-range egg goes more towards orange. And some people didn't like that; they just would.
Would it taste different to you?
No. It doesn't taste different at all.
But it suggests a healthiness.
I think so, yeah. Those chickens were eating worms and whatever they found.
The free range.
Yeah.
And the factory wanted to have good grain, probably, or maybe even eating the remnants of something that was chopped up that could be them.
Yeah.
Something less nutritious. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, that's very strange. Okay. I mean, I'm learning something here, so I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm laughing, but I don't understand what we're talking about, so I'm trying to figure it out. And so you do that, and then 17, 18 comes around, and what are you thinking?
So I think by that time, my mother knew I wasn't going on a mission. I was kind of a rebellious teen. I just wasn't having it. I didn't believe in what I was being preached.
Yeah.
So,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And did you, in addition to not believing, did you rebel and were you spending the late hours of the night watching MTV or whatever version of,
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess rebellion was like I would have beer with my friends.
Okay.
Which is not, Mormons don't do that.
Right, but pretty customary in the when you worked all day and
right. And then on my father's side, who he did convert to Mormonism later, but I think he was just to get mom off his back.
Yeah.
But he was not practicing, so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, so Ukrainians coming over, would they be Christian?
Yeah, they were. My grandfather passed when I was really young. I do have a memory of him, but they were from Western Ukraine, which today still is. More of them are Catholics. So my grandmother went to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, okay.
In Olds. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I typed your name into something and it came back with this bizarre website that says where the Pochapskys come from. And I thought I wrote down the stats, but it was so funny because I should have typed mine in, but I didn't. And it said where their immigration was from and where they went to, and Canada ranked high in where they went to.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it could be. I think the number we're dealing with was 131 of them. So it wasn't like there were 5 million and they all went from, to Kharkiv or wherever the West is to Alberta or Old. It's even, but it was just a funny thing because it also aligns with what you're saying here. And so there was, even if it was a mini immigration or migration, that program, that app shows.
Yeah. I'm curious. Does that mean the initial immigrants, or does it mean their descendants?
Exactly. I don't know. And it seemed fair. It seemed like I wanted to throw my computer out the window when I was reading it, but I thought it'd be interesting to check. But, I was like, right, because it was the first thing I looked up, and I said, oh, okay, Canada. And so then, lo and behold, that's where you're from. So, I thought, okay, well, that piece was right.
Right.
At least for you. Okay, so fashion means what to you? So you were are summers hot in Olds, or were they cold and you would wear jeans or overalls and then a jacket and just to protect yourself from the moving material to cover your arms? Or
like working on the farm, you would definitely want to wear protective.
Yeah.
Not only just not for like scrapes and bumps and stuff,
Right.
but for the dust that comes off the grain when you harvest it. You just don't. It's really uncomfortable. It's really itchy.
so you want it not to land on you too much?
Yeah, I sitting on a combine, I would probably be wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and I would just have to bear it with the dust settling on my neck and my arms.
So what fashion sensibility do you gain from that? And I'm not saying you shouldn't. Maybe what you saw was dazzling in your head, and you said, jeans and plaid shirts will be my motif, and this is what it turned into, right? I don't know. I'm not trying to be condescending, or I'm not even trying to. I'm just trying to figure.
I guess because I think I was really young when I had this idea that I wanted to get into fashion. I think I was about 14.
That's young, man. Mm-hmm. Did you go through an astronaut and a fireman stage too, or no? None of that.
Yeah, I did all that.
Okay, so this was your first mature thoughts. Were like, hey, I might want to do this, and you probably didn't tell anyone or your parents for a while, at least, because they wanted you to do the mission and do this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think.
So what was it? 14. What did you see something? Did you read something? Was Magnum PI the number one show, or was there some like, oh, that stuff is awesome?
It might have been Dallas,
right?
With Larry Hagman.
It might be, right? It could be.
Those cowboys and all that money they made, and
the boots.
Yeah, and the
jackets.
They always had a modern car in there. I remember,
right, something not farm like.
I was one of the Bobby or JR's daughter had this little Volkswagen Rabbit convertible.
Nice.
And I thought that's a cool car.
You couldn't imagine a plastic roof, right? Like just break into icicles in the winter, right? But the clothing, so nothing. The hats. You have hats. Do you make hats?
I make a winter hat.
Like a woolen one or a...
Yeah, it's leather with a quilted lining.
Oh, nice.
I'll show you one. I didn't bring any today, but
okay.
And there's no need for one here. I forgot my...
That's all right.
I make a parka as well.
Nice. But so you and I keep looking over your left shoulder to see a row of jackets that you brought in very kindly today to show us, and then a jacket, a matching guitar case that Frank is eyeballing. You better put the tag on there so he doesn't walk out with them, so the alarm goes off. But so does so no jackets. I mean, that wasn't a jacket heavy show, and I don't remember a lot of the rancher scene. There were no rancher scenes in Dallas. It was glitzy and the farm stuff at a swimming pool. So it wasn't like
right. So that's just an example.
Yeah. I'm with you.
I remember reading GQ magazine.
Nice.
And
where did you get it? Did your parents subscribe to it, or was it at the library?
I just buy one every once in a while. When you live in a small town too, like people, when you're getting near 16 years old, you start to think about a car,
For sure.
I mean, probably that doesn't happen here. My son, who's going to be 14, he's not. His peers aren't looking at what car they're going to get.
It's unfathomable parking a car and day in and day out transactions, right?
Yeah, but in rural Alberta, you kind of need it. I mean, you don't need it, but it
helps.
Well,
you were allowed to drive at 14 under a restricted license, right?
Yeah.
And you could drive the pickup to school because if you're far enough away, they had that exception as well, right? Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't like, there was a need. Yeah. You better be able to drive it.
Right.
Yeah. And then you get one, and then you go out and do what dumb kids do as they drink, and they go 100 miles an hour in the first day. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you got it. Did you have a mate or a buddy or a girlfriend or someone that was interested in fashion, or was it just you wanted a car and you wanted to roll? And
I guess so. Cars kind of maybe you start thinking about cars, and it's like keeping up with the Joneses. I guess like what car can I afford, anyways, I would go to the magazine section at the convenience store in Olds, and
what was it called? The convenience store?
Ted's. And they have a really good. They still to this a submarine sandwich.
Huh? What's in it?
It's just the bread, and then they make them to order. But I don't know where they get their buns, but it's really good, and the good portions of salami. I used to get the assorted sub.
Yeah. With the dressing on it?
Turkey. Yeah, if you want.
I think you and I are probably in a minority of the world. I don't think the world understands the submarine concept of the big sandwich, which is something that's in a piece of bread. If you eat the whole 6 or 12 inches or 20 inch, it's like 5 meals. It's just an insane amount, but it has to be hefty because you lay down a huge channel of meat, tomatoes, onions, salad, lettuce, whatever, other things, and then dressing. And it's massive, right?
And somehow you eat the whole thing.
And it's absurd. It's huge. And it's so much food.
Yeah.
And if you put enough dressing in, it's heavy. I mean, it's like you had a weighty object. You could maybe take a thin window out if you hurled it as hard as you could, right? You couldn't break a car window. I think that's the differentiator. But, if you hit it at 30 miles an hour, if you threw it in a moving car, maybe the windshield would go up. But yeah, I mean, I'm very... I had my place. I forget the name of it now. I could think about it, but that's where I got introduced to Russian dressing as opposed to French dressing. And Russian dressing was a darker red, sort of like those chicken eggs.
Yeah.
And it was just livelier, zestier.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around. I thought the French was darker.
Yeah, in my universe, on my block.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe the guy spit in it or something. I don't know.
And then Thousand Island?
I didn't like it.
No.
No, it was having nothing to do with
in there.
And the Italian was too messy. It was sort of you shaking that, and it's wet. You couldn't eat it walking. I don't know why that'd be important to walk and eat a 12-inch sandwich. We had to go to. But yeah, okay, the submarine. I'm with you. All this imagery is I'm with you, and I'm not seeing what you're designing yet. So
yeah, I guess. Anyways, convenience store.
Ted's.
That has good subs. Also had magazine racks.
Yep.
And they would have Auto Trader.
Yes.
Which was secondhand cars, and then
secondhand cars in Alberta or in
the area.
Yeah.
They had it by regions, but in Alberta, I would get the Calgary and area one, see what was out there. And then the GQ magazine was another one there that I'd pick up every once in a while, and I was first. What caught me the most was the Ralph Lauren ads.
Right. Okay.
A lot of them. I mean, he does a lot of different genres of styles, but a lot of the stuff that was coming out at the time was Western.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the jeans were the big thing then, right? Too.
Yeah.
Did you have a pair of Ralph Lauren jeans? Or was that way too expensive?
I did. I did, and they were too expensive.
Yeah,
but I spent some money on them and really appreciated them. So I think I learned quite young that I don't mind spending a little bit more if you really, really like something. So
yeah, I think I only had one of those. I bought the first pair of the Nike running shoes, and I hid them in a box. And when I wore them, Laura Castaneda, my brother, made fun of me, and so I thought I'm not getting expensive stuff. But I think J.C. Penney's were my jeans, and we were just average size, so you could buy them right off the rack, and and they'd fit, and they would last. It seemed like forever until you grew out of them, and then you'd hand them down or hand me down or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I could think $60 probably for Ralph Lauren jeans. Just like what is it? What are you doing?
Yes, I had mostly like Levi's jeans.
Yeah, right.
But I had my first pair. They were like not a blue jean; they were tan in color, and I got them at the West Edmonton Mall. There was a Ralph Lauren store in there, and
wow,
it used to be the biggest mall in the world.
Nice.
That was in the 80s, though. So. anyways, yeah. So the Ralph Lauren ads kind of grabbed me, and I remember sitting in church with my buddy Mike, talking about fashion. Not listening to the sermon, but looking at GQ magazine and
the back row,
just looking at what you like, what you don't like, and then I had a sketchbook, and I was sketching out different names of labels if I were to become a designer someday.
Not clothes, the names of labels.
The name of a company,
right? So
fashion
you
company.
saw Tom Ford or whatever, and you said, "Write that name down." So you started to take a mental.
No,
list.
it would just be if I okay, so like Ralph Lauren has the polo line, and it's meant to be like a luxury, like people that play polo have money, right?
Right.
But so I just mulled around words of what I would call my company.
Huh.
And eventually I settled on Tractor.
Yeah, you did, right?
Yeah. I think at one time I thought about calling it the Barn.
Yeah,
maybe
something.
it was like I was working off the Gap, the Barn. I don't know. But anyways,
That's a good name.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I shelved that for a while.
So were you thinking of the clothes? I mean, so was Ralph Lauren the driver to this? And then the name, the Tractor, was going to be your sort of field clothing, but also a higher end field clothing concept, or is it not that articulated yet?
I think I was just romanticizing about a different life.
Yeah. Right. I get it.
Just the imagery of those fashion ads is just like people that are in a good spot, a good place, or there's a puppy licking their face or something, you know. So I guess I started thinking about how can I
go there?
How can I do that, or like how can I present?
Okay.
Was
it how can I go there, or how can I do that?
It was how can I do that? Was it an escape? I guess it was partially that I knew I didn't want to
Be a farmer.
drive a combine,
Right.
or I didn't want to
Remain a farmer.
I didn't want to get.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have a hailstorm change the course of my
Economic life. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. You saw risk. It was, and I'm sure it was a constant theme, and I'm sure, God help us for dinner tonight and hope it doesn't rain or flood tomorrow, right? Just you come up with this whole philosophy around the weather, right?
But in hindsight, every career's got the same elements, or it can have. So.
Yeah, I mean, that one's peculiar though, right? It's sort of all or nothing for most of it, right?
Right.
If it's something, like you said, you lay it down and it gets rotten, it's darn, we should have pulled it in sooner, son.
Right.
Why'd you go to that concert in Alberta? Why did you go to...
Right.
Why'd you spend so much time at Ted's reading those freaking books?
I need you to stay home and look at the sky.
Try and worry with me together. We're gonna start a sage fire. Ward the spirits of the valley off. I'm not joking. I mean, I'm sure there's been stranger father-son relationships in that.
Yeah.
Worrying about livelihood.
Yeah.
Okay. So 18, and do you have thoughts of continuing education?
So I didn't know really what to do. So at 19, I moved from Olds into Calgary, and I got a job as a busboy in a nightclub.
Nice.
It was a pretty popular place, actually, in the early 90s, called Curly's Restaurant and Bar. It's no longer, but...
was Curly a person, or was that an homage to the Three Stooges, or what was it?
I don't know why. The owner his name was Dave Clark, but nothing. I don't know why Curly's. Might have been Three Stooges.
Because they were still popular when you and I were in that sort of
Yeah.
I mean, there was not
our parents
just a rerun. There were many reruns, and there were.
Yeah, it could very well be. I never did. It didn't have any images of any Stooges. So
it's
it was
probably a downfall throwing those up, but indirect reference to it might be enough. Oh, you think I get slapped? All right, so boy, geez. So you fell out of the apple tree onto the pavement, and you went to a nightclub and started serving drinks.
Yeah, I started bartending, and then I did that. I just kind of, I guess, I don't regret it, but I didn't go to college till I was like 25.
Yeah, okay. So that's a 5-year gap, 6-year gap?
Yeah, 6 years.
Yeah, and all in Calgary?
Yeah.
All sort of make and do?
Like working until
3 in the morning, 2 in the morning.
Yeah, 3 in the morning, and then bars would close, and you have to find a new job. I worked at 3 or 4 places in 6 years, but the last place, Dixon's Pub, I was working at, and I was starting to save money, and my sister was saying, you're getting older, and you don't
so 2 brothers, 1 sister.
No, I have 4 sisters, 2 brothers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd say, how did we get an hour into this without you mentioning those horrendous sisters of yours? Now, he mentioned before he loved you all.
Yeah.
So, dummy, Jason, go to school.
Yeah,
at least.
you're not going to bartend forever. And she's right. And I knew she was right.
Were you having fun? Was life?
I was having fun. I
was Calgary rocking, and you had scene, and you had go get pancakes at 4 in the morning and then go to bed?
It was all that stuff that I guess that's what you do in your 20s, isn't it?
Did you pick up a guitar? Or were you cutting any fabric?
So I didn't get a guitar until I was 19.
Yeah.
So yeah, during the Curly's days, and a buddy of mine, Chris, gave me some lessons. We're still really good friends. So yeah, that's when I first started guitar. I had played piano when I lived at home.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, unfortunately. But I'm dealing that with my son right now. He doesn't want to play the clarinet because it's not cool.
Yeah, of course not. Wants to play a Strat.
Right.
Okay. And so, did you have musical influences at this point, or was it whatever the Canadian radio forced down your throat?
Yeah. Well, there is that because Canada has the CRTC, so they make us. Right now, I think it's 1 in 3 songs on the radio has to be Canadian.
Indigenous, right? Yeah.
So I guess it's good for promoting Canadian artistry, but it also limits. But anyway, I think
right. It's the government position to try and strengthen your knowledge of your homeland. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So did you know John Poussette Dart Band? Did that one ever come up? I have a poster in that back room that we were just in. If you didn't notice that, I got to show you that. I love those guys.
No,
Their big song was "Hallelujah, I'm a Bum." And some of the most complicated guitar playing. It's just like, what in the world is this guy doing?
Right.
It was awesome. Never heard of him, huh?
No.
God, I'm 0 for 20 on selling John Poussette Dart to the Canadians.
I'll definitely give it a listen.
I'll send you the link if there is one.
In high school, I kind of was into pop music, like the music everyone else was into. People were into Depeche Mode, Erasure,
okay,
kind of synth pop.
Yeah.
I remember I eventually got into the Beatles after the synth pop.
That was in Calgary, though.
No, that was still in my high school days.
Okay. So they penetrate everywhere. Just give enough time, you're going to get Beatle education.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think I was watching the Killing Fields movie, and at the end of it, the character that the Vietnamese guy that's lost, but he finds his friend.
Lawson, what's
yeah,
his name? Yeah. Okay.
But he finally reunites with his buddy, and then they play Imagine John Lennon. So I think that kind of resonated with me, and I started researching the Beatles and buying a couple of CDs by then. Or no, I think I started Beatles on the cassettes and then moved over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the whole Beatles, Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd kind of cover stuff. Then I kind of moved on to Neil Young and Bob Dylan stuff. And then
Some American stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Neil's Canadian. Okay.
Yeah, but
okay.
Classic rock kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff. And I still play some of those songs today, but my musical palette has expanded a lot as well. But
did you get, by liking those bands or discovering them later, did you pull yourself out of the mainstream and become weird? Did people look at you and say, why are you listening to Floyd or the Stones, or them? Why aren't you listening to Nirvana or whoever's up at, who's ever up, at your 24, 25? Or did you have a good mix?
Yeah, I didn't actually until I think I was kind of, I don't know. I just, when I went to fashion design college in Montreal, I was still like listening to Pink Floyd and classic rock
at 25 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, so you leave Calgary and you're sort of solitary. So you had one move to Calgary, and now you're going over to Montreal, and you decided to go to fashion school. So you were doing it alone, probably.
Yeah.
And so you were sort of in your own head at this point.
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to learn how to sew and be able to create clothing for men. And I still had the same musical taste. I do remember, though, my peers at the fashion school were into completely different genres.
Yeah, name some. This will be funny. I mean, just because it'll be so distinct, right?
I mean, this was when, like, Bjork was
right.
In her prime, I'd say, and just other bands that now I listen to today, but I just wasn't into that scene at the time.
Madonna?
No,
late.
Madonna was high school.
Okay.
And that was, I would say that's pop, but I didn't, I
Guns
could
N' Roses?
Yeah. Never had any albums, but if it's on the radio, I could groove to that.
Heavy metal, like Metallica was coming up then and around?
Yeah, Metallica, I had a lot of friends that were into that.
Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails?
Oh, I had the Pretty Hate Machine album, and my mom found it on cassette. And
okay.
I think it had a lyric sheet that
it was mortifying. Yeah.
She was like, what the hell?
Yeah, this is the one you shouldn't have picked to have her find. Good for him. Well, thanks, Trent. Firmly driving the wedge between son and mother. He ran away after that. Yeah, no, as it should be. I mean, that's how that works, right? That's precisely how it works. Okay. So the beginning of not Attraction to Darkness, because the Beatles were probably overall an optimistic pick, right? Mm-hmm. Dylan was probably a light on the horizon if you listen to it, right? So you're still fairly balanced, and you're checking it out. Now you're going to school, and now you're going to a school with a high-end proposition to it, right? Like, those of you who succeed will have their own product line and will clothe the gods on Mount whatever the mountain where gods live is, and so you had that bit of histrionics in there where you just sort of wanted to sew. You had the idea, like, you want to create.
Yeah, I that's a whole. That's a whole other discussion, but what you think you're going to get out of fashion school and the reality are well, in my case anyways, it's it's not cut and dry. Right.
Well, you want to be Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
If you go in with the wrong focus, right? I want to do what he did.
Right.
I want to create this awesome product line that everyone wears.
Yeah. Exactly, but you realize
low percentage
the costs of everything if you do want to start things on your own. I started printing T-shirts just with my logo after
Tractor.
Yeah, and
Tractor JP or Tractor.
Tractor. Tractor by Jason Pochapsky.
Well, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. But. Because I think there are other there's a Tractor hardware store and Tractor.
Yeah, there's a Tractor where they're interviewing a guy named JP, and he has his new John Deere, and I thought, hope he didn't copyright that or trademark. Right. But I would say you have prior use, so you'd be safe.
Right.
But he was interesting. I listened to his criticism of the latest bucket seat, and I thought there were some good points he raised. Okay, so, all right, yeah, so you're there, and it immediately smacks you in the head. Okay, if I'd gone to medical school, I would just want to be a doctor. I wouldn't want to be the Ralph Lauren of doctors. Now I have this craft where I'm misaligned with the overall objectives of my classmates because all of them want to have their own product line and be Ralph Lauren. Or were there people with good intentions like, I would like to be a prop maker for the local theater, and I would like to stay in Olds and do summer stock?
I mean, I guess in a way, I was pretty self-absorbed and probably I thought it would be easier than it was, but I never, I didn't think, okay, I'm going to finish school and then start my own company.
Do other students think that? Or is that quickly bashed out of their head?
Well, no, there's so many ways of going about it. You can, one of the things I tried after graduating was just taking, as the teachers suggested, take your portfolio and go and show it to fashion labels.
For example, who? Like that list you had in your head, but 8 years later?
Yeah, just
all in New York City?
And no, I started out in Montreal, just going to the fashion district there. I can't remember the names. I think a lot of the companies have changed or rebranded anyways, but like Pepe Jeans or something like that. And I remember taking my portfolio and showing people, and the people, there were no jobs.
Yeah.
So,
and there is a sort of mentor idea around suit making and clothes making, at least from a Dickensian point of view. Like, you're the understudy, you're coming in as an apprentice, right? It seems like that's one of the things. Like, isn't that Pinocchio? Wasn't he a cobbler or something? Wasn't that pounded into our head? Like, that guy was a shoe and he had an apprentice and it turned out to be a doll or some weirdness, right? And whose nose grew, which always had me a little concerned. But isn't that the nature of the proper role of the young student fashion designer, to have the strong leader to show them the way and how to cut and how to do the dance?
Yeah, I guess it could be. Maybe
as opposed to other crafts.
Yeah.
Even farming, you'd ask your dad, but, go plow that field, son. How do I do it? Just get in the thing and go. Don't dig too deep, or, I'm sure there was guidance, but I'm not trying to trivialize.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely. You can't just
go dig.
So, but there just wasn't any opportunity in Canada. So I went back to Calgary, went back to bartending.
Did you finish your degree or did you bail?
I didn't get the diploma.
Yeah.
But
you got what you needed.
Unless I needed it for immigration purposes, I don't see. Which I actually did need it for immigration purposes. Once,
right.
But,
so you found yourself forging a diploma in the dark back room of the bathroom at the immigration department. Here it is.
Yeah. So I went back. I went back to Calgary and bartended again and made T-shirts. But then I was like, I don't mind working, but I spent money on this education. I should be working in fashion. And this was in the early, I just bought my first Mac G4 tower.
Yeah.
So I had internet and I had an apartment, but I just felt like, okay, I'm just back. I'm just back at just doing the thing that I wanted to get away from doing. And I found a job. The college I went to in Montreal was called LaSalle College. And they branched out into Asia and opened up a chain called Raffles LaSalle. So I found a job teaching fashion design.
In Singapore?
In Guangzhou.
Wow.
Yeah. It was interesting. I think they they kind of duped me a little bit because at first they said it was in Kuala Lumpur. So then I started getting ready, getting my vaccinations against.
You didn't need that encephalitis vaccine there. You needed the schistosomiasis vaccine or something, right? Yeah, okay.
So I started getting prepared, and they're like, "Oh, you're not going to Kuala Lumpur anymore. You're going to go to Guangzhou." I think they probably knew that if they had said Guangzhou right off the bat, it would be scary. Like, I've never heard of that place.
There's probably like 80 people in Guangzhou then, but now there's like 70 million or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
that's awesome.
It's the blue jean capital of the world.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So there was actually a basis to be there and probably made sense. And
yeah, and I'm glad I went. It was my first.
First time out of Canada?
Yeah, first time out of Canada. Although going from Alberta to Montreal is kind of like culture shock.
It's still Canadians, bro.
Yeah, but they're Frenchies, you know. They speak
but you've heard one in three of their songs your whole life.
Yeah, exactly. But
you didn't hear one in three Chinese Guangzhou songs.
Yeah.
Wait, did you do a direct flight? Did you at least pass through like Hong Kong or somewhere that was sort of like you could get a McDonald's or something?
No, it was horrible.
Vancouver to Beijing,
and
you just
on
got
Air
off.
China.
Oh yes.
And
do you remember the flight as if it was yesterday?
I do.
What did you eat on that flight?
It was like some kind of boiled fish.
Nice.
With the skin on it, which I don't.
How many bags did you have?
I think I had two large suitcases.
And a backpack overhead? Can you visualize the cabin? And that fish?
Yeah. No. It was just normal.
Okay. Were you frightened, or were you like, "Wow, this is a great adventure"? Or were you like, I've lost my mind here?
Oh, I forgot, but I went with my girlfriend from Olds at the time.
You forgot your sister and your girlfriend. So these are notable 4 sisters. It's just these appliances that are around you. I'm joking. Okay, so she's with you. So you're holding hands and clenching, and the fish shows up, and you're like, "What have we done?"
Yeah. So she had traveled more than I, so
okay.
I think
she went to Missoula.
Yeah.
Okay, she'd been around.
She'd been around.
She held your hand. You had your visas.
Right.
She knew what she was doing. She said, "Get a power converter," something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All that stuff.
Right.
She knew where to go to get vaccines and what I should get.
Was she teaching as well?
No, she just wasn't doing anything. And
what were the visa requirements then? Like, did she just come in as a tourist and you came in as a worker?
Yeah, she came in on just her Canadian. Or no, I think she would have needed a tourist visa.
Right.
And my employer did my visa for me, but I still had to. I was still registered in a different province.
Yeah, of course. Nothing worked.
Yeah, and I still had to leave every 3 months.
Right.
So.
But you're teaching, so you didn't. Was this as a result of education at LaSalle, or did you get your degree, or did you just sign up for this gig and you went over semi-credentialed?
So how did that happen? They hired me and they did help me do the paperwork and got me there.
Good.
They suggested an apartment, which was an apartment where other teachers had
survived,
were living at.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was like given the materials. I was teaching sewing 1, which is the beginning one. And
was it electric or manual?
With sewing machines, industrial sewing machines. Yeah, electric. Yeah.
Okay, electric, not pedal.
Not him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I taught fashion history
in English
and trends analysis. Yeah.
Wow.
It was all in English. Mostly Cantonese students, but there was one girl from Australia there. That was my student. I think her husband was there with some other work, so she decided to go to school.
Yeah. And did you like it, teaching?
I did like it. I liked that gig in China, but my girlfriend didn't like it.
Yeah.
Just I mean, she was just bored.
Yeah, sitting and waiting for you to get to school.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I had a 2-year contract, and I left after 7 months. And then she dumped me when I got back to Canada. So
Yeah. Okay. So you do it 7 months of that and then go back to Canada because the tour's over?
I went back to Canada because the girlfriend said,
I got to go home.
Yeah.
And you didn't say, you go home alone. I'm staying here.
I should have.
Yeah.
I
Okay. Yeah. Hindsight. So you go there and then you stay there, or you come back to China?
I didn't go back to China. So after that gig, I went back to Olds.
Wow.
Girlfriend was from there. She dumped me.
Fair enough.
And
you took her to China.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, well, now what do I do? Ended up getting a job at Olds College because they have a fashion program there.
It's 3,000 people in that town.
I know, but people need to put their kids in school, I guess.
So it's a college. It's a bachelor's degree college.
So it's an agricultural college.
Right.
So you go in there and learn about
Aggie.
Germination and what pesticides.
Right on.
And
okay, so you're there teaching.
But they brought in back in the day, it was called the homemakers class, because basically they had a bunch of kids from the farms, mostly males, going to college, drinking and getting into fights.
Right.
So they decided they needed to bring some females there.
Right.
So they put a homemakers course there, which turned into a fashion program.
Yeah, nice. And so that probably much required skill when your house is 40 miles away from town to keep it in order with your own hands, right? Okay.
So my dad was still alive and still farming, and he said, well, you've got that teaching experience. Why don't you teach at the college? So I did, but I wasn't happy. I was, after seeing China,
right,
after seeing Guangzhou, which is like 18 million people.
Yeah, even then it was huge, right?
Back in Olds, feeling quite provincial. And that's fine. I kind of miss that feeling too, but I just had to do something else.
Yeah.
So
Again.
And that's when I decided to go to Ukraine. Because I had this travel bug. I wanted to see more of the world after seeing China, and wanted to get away from Olds. My ex-girlfriend was living there too, and it was when a town's that small, you end up seeing things.
And she had a boyfriend and the whole thing, and then it was just a train wreck. Yeah. Okay. And in Guangzhou, you could have avoided that.
Right.
Casual running every 5 minutes, because you're at Ted's reading the automobile magazine, and she's looking at baby and mommy. Right? Have you no respect, lady, for my suffering? Okay. All right. So do you do the Ukraine trip?
Yeah, I found a online. It was a gap year program where you go and teach English to
Ukrainians,
and I signed up. It was like you have to pay your own flight here.
Yeah.
But we'll hook you up with a job and a place to stay. But the job was you're actually volunteering. So I did that. It was a 3-month contract, and I kind of right off the bat knew I was getting exploited.
Yes.
Because the free teaching was I was teaching like people with money.
Yeah.
At a school that people with money threw money at. So I think at one time Poroshenko's daughter was in one of my classes. So
right. So she wasn't there on a Chevening scholarship.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So good. And she probably.
But anyways, I
goes to Fashion Week. Right.
Well, thank goodness for pubs, because after my volunteer hours at work, and I'd go, and there was a place called the Zoloti Vorota pub,
Yes.
Golden Gate pub, and I met other people that were other Canadians that were teaching English, and they're like, oh, there's tons of paid work here. So ended up finding, before the end of my 3 months, ended up finding paid work, and ended up staying in Kiev for 5 years.
Wow. So were you back on the combine in Kiev, or were you closer to your aspiration?
Yeah, I did look for fashion work there, but without Russian language, no one was interested.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah,
you had to catch up a little bit to get the high end of whatever skill set you were looking at with the language, right? Sort of like here, if you think about it.
yeah,
You do better with the Thai.
yeah. So there actually was a good chunk of time where I didn't do fashion.
That 5 years?
Yeah, that 5 years, I just taught English, but it was fun. It was like, I learned a little bit of Russian language through my students, and it was just like, I don't know. And I wasn't, I was just doing something, just seeing a new part of the world. And
Yeah. Did the synth board show up at that point, or did the guitar come along for the ride, or did you buy a local guitar made out of cedar or something?
no, I had one of these composite Martin guitars at the time, and I brought it with me.
Working on it or just looking at it?
No, I would play music for my students. So I'd bring them a lyric sheet, and I'd play the song, and then we'd have a discussion about what it actually meant. Like one of the songs was like Norwegian Wood by the Beatles.
Nice.
Like, well, what happened in this situation?
Why were they in the bathtub?
Yeah.
Were they showering?
Right.
Huh. You didn't bring him like Kid Rock, bam, bada, bam, bada, but you didn't try and trick him, right?
No.
Okay.
But another funny one was Conway Twitty song.
Nice.
Tight fitting jeans.
Yay.
And there's one lyric in there. So the song's about Conway Twitty meeting this married girl that's out without her husband, and she's kind of posh. She drinks champagne and he drinks beer. But she wants to party, and she wants to meet a real cowboy. Hilarious song. But anyways,
Who wears the tight-fitting jeans, her or him?
she does.
Mm.
Yeah. And she says there's a tiger in these tight-fitting jeans, and that made a lot of the students smile when I asked them to imagine what that meant.
So you were bringing smut and pornography to Kiev. So it's your fault, this whole thing.
Right.
I mean, NATO told you to stay out, and here you are encroaching the border, and now we got tight-fitting jean problems. So we can trace it back to you.
Right.
All right, there it is. So what's after Ukraine? Where do you go?
So, I met my current wife, my second wife. I was married briefly to a Ukrainian gal, but it didn't work out.
Okay.
We figured that out after a year and a half.
So current and second is more important?
Yeah, so...
In Ukraine, you met her?
Yeah.
Through the United Nations mission she was on.
Yeah, so the Canadian Embassy in Kiev...
So you were on a mission. She was on a mission. Your mom wanted you to go on the mission, and you didn't, but you went on it anyways.
Different kind of mission.
And you were teaching the word of tight-fitting jeans,
Right.
which was almost straight out of the Book of Mormon.
Right. Except this mission had a booze element to it.
Okay, there you go. So there. All right. So you didn't do what your mom asked for. You, in fact, rebelled against it. All right. And you entered the father's side of the family. So there, even worse.
Right,
So
right.
you just spat in her face remotely. Okay, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So you're there, meet the wife, get married right away, or you date for a while?
So, no, yeah. I guess okay. Let's step back a little ways,
please.
First. So I'm not doing fashion design. I'm teaching English, which is like $10 an hour, but cost of living is cheap.
Right. That's good. That's good income.
Yeah, but my students are looking for a way out of Ukraine. A lot of them are.
Aha! Get me out of here.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, you're from Canada. Do you know how? Is it possible to get a job in Canada?" So I hear this question a lot, and so I start looking into it. Like, if you're a foreigner, how do you get a job in Canada? And start reading the government websites and this and that. And again, at the pub, at the Golden Gate pub, I was chatting with another Canadian about work visas and stuff, and a guy who was doing it, a Scottish guy or Scotsman. He said, "Oh, I know how to do it because I'm doing it." And he said, "I tell you what, the next time you go to Canada, I'm going to give you some resumes of some skilled workers." And they were butchers, so not very pleasant work. So therefore, it's harder. It's harder to find people to do that work. So they had a visa program, so you could bring people in from, say,
I see. So you gave Ukrainian butchers to do work in Canada, and you give them these wad of paper, and he'd go back and find people who needed them. So this is the front end of the pipeline.
I went to, so when I went back to Canada the next time, I went to the butcher not in Olds. We don't have any slaughterhouses in Olds, but the town next to us did, and I brought them some resumes and a disc of them doing, cutting up cows.
Right.
And so the owners said, "Yeah, if you can bring these guys here, we'll give them a job." So I did that. I did that with Tony, the Scottish guy, and got paid for that. And then I realized, okay, there could be money to, there's people that will pay you to get them.
Yeah, there's gold in them there hills. Conway Twitty.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
I did. I had to get certified as an immigration consultant in Canada, and I
more schooling.
Yeah, it was just a 3-month course.
Okay.
Or it was 1 year online or 3 months.
Was that back at LaSalle or somewhere else?
I did that in Toronto. I opted to do it to get it out of the way in 3 months instead of online over a year, because I wanted to get working on stuff. So I got accredited as a Canadian immigration consultant, so then I could
show up at the office and do that. Yeah, you can't just have any dude doing that.
Right, well, because they do have just any dude doing that, and they just take your money and you never hear from them again. So this is more like you had to have a Canadian bank account. They knew who I was.
Right. So. Good. Yeah, that's important.
So helped bring mostly low-skilled waitresses, mechanics. I don't know why they call it low-skilled, but
entry level. Yeah.
Yeah. Butchers, heavy-duty mechanics.
Huh. Do you keep in touch with any of these people now? Or is that too long ago?
No, a few of them.
Yeah. Were you a savior? Or was this they were fleeing, or was this just dough and they'd send it home?
So one of the guys I'm still in touch with, he's in Canada. He's in Vancouver. He's married, and I think he just had a kid. And he came over he came over as a lumberyard worker.
Oh, okay, nice.
But I helped him understand a strategy.
To
go from a low-skilled job to like saving some money and then getting an international student visa. And I think that's the path that he chose.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't just get him over and get the commission or whatever it was, is get him and give him a path. And and it says Alberta, Banff, Alberta on the collar. Nice. Right on.
I just had this I just wanted to I like putting animals, and so these are all animals that you can see.
Yeah, have a seat so we can hear that. So you like putting animals on, and these are all animals you can see. So you got a buffalo, you got a goat or a mountain goat.
Yeah. Mallard.
Mallard, yeah, the old mallard. And are those flowers indigenous? Squirrel.
The flowers are just free-handed flowers.
All right. So nothing you'd find in the hills of Banff in the summer?
Find something similar. I don't know the names of the flowers. And the grizzly on the back.
The grizzly, yes. That's the big one. Nice. Huh, very cool. Your collar's still flipped up, if that matters to you.
Yeah, no.
We did see. I just wanted to get this photo op of your fine leatherware there. So I keep this at unwholesome levels of air conditioning, which propelled you into putting your jacket on, and so we've now ruined the surprise of what you do. But this is an example. So you're now bringing people back and forth, and you're back in doing this out of Canada. You go to school in Montreal to do quick study, get some credentials.
Yeah,
you're now certified, and you start bringing folks, and you help with career planning as well.
Right. As I got more experience, I realized that you have to be creative in helping consult someone on their immigration path.
Yeah.
Because there are loopholes, but there are also traps that you can fall into. So, and yeah, it was interesting work, but I think it just became too obtuse.
Yeah.
But I stopped doing the immigration consulting. I gave up my license during COVID.
Yeah.
I kept it. Because you have to do like continuing
Education,
development courses and stuff, and pay for all that. I kept it in case I might want to go back to it. But I don't think,
So you were married at that point then?
Yeah. So anyways, the Canadian Embassy in Kiev every second Friday would turn into they would have a pub night.
In the embassy.
So you show up, you go through security, you can't take your phone in there, but you go up. Canada took over the East German embassy in Kiev. So it's this Stalin-esque
nice
big block of concrete. But the conference room upstairs, they'd wheel a bar in and put some tables and chairs around. And
fairly standard practice overseas.
Yeah.
Embassies have entertainment areas
Right.
for their staff and for their constituents over there and stuff. So you hear this around the world. So
Yeah.
This isn't like the Canadians are bonkers doing something. It's just
Right.
you have an event thing, and you'd bring
Yeah.
people in, and people would drink alcohol and go home drunk.
Right.
Oh,
They did that in Guangzhou too, at the
Everywhere.
Australian embassy. Yeah. So, I was there I had a couch surfer guy staying with me, and it was a Friday, and I said, let's go to the embassy. And I went there, took him there. He had Canadian citizenship. You didn't have to be Canadian to go. As long as you're a Canadian friendly country, you could go.
there you go.
The only time that actually impacted me is I was tutoring a diplomat from North Korea, and I said, "Yeah, it's Friday. Why don't you meet me at the Canadian Embassy? They have a party there." And he's like, "I don't think I can go." I'm like, and it's something that I didn't think about.
Right. Yeah, and the nuance overseas, right? Mortal enemies to someone.
Right.
Right.
To me, he's just my
Dude.
student.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that's the nature of the beast, right? You get over here and you figure it out the wrong way half the time. Like, oh, geez, sorry. My bad. Okay, so
I met my wife there.
nice.
She was there with some UN colleagues, and she actually thought I was someone else. She waved
Tom
to me.
Cruise.
Some guy that I kind of do look like, but
Conway Twitty. I'm just.
she had a Baha'i friend, which they don't drink alcohol, and she thought it was him, and I was double fisting it. I had like a Bloody Mary and a beer in my
So
hand.
tomato juice and a cider, apple cider.
And I think she was wondering what happened
Yeah,
to
you
my Baha'i
fall.
friend.
Yeah, right. Well, okay, so she was misled from the get-go.
Right. So yeah, so we met there, and we've been together 14 years now.
14 years, nice.
Yeah.
And she works for the UN?
Yeah, she works for the refugee agency.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a big office here, right? Or there's a centralized office here.
It's centralized
in
this
Bangkok.
region.
We're in Bangkok, Thailand, in case you jumped
Bangkok,
in late. Yeah.
Bangkok UNHCR office. They deal with Afghanistan and the refugees there, and Myanmar, and plus any other refugee there.
Right.
But those are the two big ones.
Right.
So my wife is on the Myanmar side of things.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, that's an important spot right now because it's getting hairy. Or it has been hairy, but, good. I wish them the best.
Yeah.
Figure that one out. And her. And so then what's leading the race in your head? Is it the music side or the fashion side, or is that the same thing to you? Are they combined? Because your music is not only infused with fashion, your doppelgangers are in there, and you create personalities through your fashion. So I keep mentioning this. Mr. Svarshik has a fashion sense.
Yeah.
Right? You can like it or not, but it's not this gear.
Right.
So, he could have chosen that gear, but he chose something else.
Yeah. I think priority wise, if I were forced to choose one or the other, I would choose the fashion because I think it's my strongest, the strongest part of what I create. But the two kind of go hand in hand because with the leather jackets, there's this whole association with leather and rock and roll, like rock and roll music. Or country music, but so I guess it's kind of like I design these leather jackets, and I design them kind of with envisaging them on a rock star.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do. Frank and I'll do this if you give us permission to show your website here, but we'll take a picture of some jackets.
Sure.
Some of the hats. We'll run through this now with my voice as a voiceover.
Sure.
Belt, a necktie, I believe.
Yeah.
Leather. I mean, it's really sort of, you take a second to look at it. A guitar case.
Yeah.
A briefcase of sorts, or a carrying case of some type, and then a multitude of jackets, which we'll show live here, but I'll also show them on the website. And then we also have, you also have a hat. You're right. That is on the website. And I'm just trying to think what else I saw, but it's a beautiful website, and it actually shows what's been sold because there's not 50 of these.
Sorry, I don't think there's a hat on the website.
The cowboy hat.
Those are
props.
Those are just part.
Okay, my bad
look.
then. Yeah. Right, I didn't like. Okay, but then some of these, many of these are sold, and you show what was on there just to give some flavor, and it's obviously these are one of a kind pieces, and so you see it, you buy it, or you let it pass, it'll be gone. But a great website. So it's well done, well set up. I hope it's working for you. I hope you can ship this stuff. I hope the customs people don't see what the hell is this and say, are these real bears? No, it's a drawing. But so you have this thing, but then you have this fashion sense. And had I not gone to see you last week play, and that was an accident, you were on the stage with your back to the audience and a synthesizer in front of you. So it was a very interesting. I walked right in on that. I was like, what in God's name is this? And then there was a bass player who was playing fairly complex to highly complex bass playing and singing, rapping at the same time. Yeah. And it was a fairly overwhelming musical scene to walk into, I have to admit.
Oh,
it was loud and it was rocking and it was cool. I was like, what in the heck is this? And we'd already talked at that point and sort of said, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so it was funny. I was like, what in the heck?
Yeah.
I would have just done a fashion interview. And now it's that thing.
Yeah. I guess part of it is like this is a lame expression, but fake it till you make it kind of thing. Because, you know,
Well, you're not. You got your jacket on, so you're faking the music.
yeah, I don't know. Am I a rock star? I don't know. I don't consider. I consider myself.
You're on a stage
a
in
designer, an artist,
in a hip bar, playing with guys who are playing their butts off.
Yeah.
Guys, no, I guess it was just guys. I'll
Yeah.
say that. With cool gear and awesome sound.
Yeah.
Well, that seems like you're a
Yeah.
rock guy. With the coolest clothes on in the bar, or at least a look. You know, I think I showed up
Yeah.
in jeans and a T-shirt like this, so you could say that's not very rock and roll.
Yeah, that's I guess that's performance art, which
No, it's your outfit.
yeah. I mean,
Michael Jackson had one.
yeah, exactly.
He rocked.
Yeah.
Van Halen had one.
Yeah.
Pretty basic.
A lot of those eccentric.
Rush had them.
stars.
Your primary influences. They wore kimonos in one album cover.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, and then you had the hat and the pants. I mean, you
Yeah.
had the boots. Jeez,
Yeah.
the concho belt or the big.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rocking.
Yeah. I love going out dressed up. It is hot in Bangkok, but
Yeah.
if you
Sweat.
if you find air conditioning, you're okay. But
Yeah, you're not gonna be okay. You're gonna sweat your ass off half the time, but it's just brutally hot here. But that's the nature of rocking.
right.
You show up in your gear and you sweat.
Yeah.
I had a 3-hour gig that was on a patio once that was debilitating. I mean, I did it every Saturday, and I would just the next morning I'd have splitting headache, and I realized I couldn't consume enough liquid to stay ahead of that. It was just hot, you know, and you're playing and you don't pay attention. You sweat, you know, you're dropping stuff because you're sopping wet.
Actually,
You pull your shirt off, and it's like you played soccer for 3 hours.
actually, leather can actually help.
It's
keep your-
cooling. Yeah, okay, that's garbage.
Well,
It's 1,000 degrees.
People don't believe that. But
I
like,
don't believe
there are certain times that I won't be out walking around with
No, I
this
get it. I get it. I get what you're saying.
in the noonday sun but you know, there are times of the day where your body just
Yeah.
Sure, I was sweating when I put this jacket on, but now
Yeah.
because actually leather can wick
Yeah, of
sweat
course.
away from
The
your body.
animals have it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it makes sense for them for a reason. It works. You know, it's like a dry fit finally. Nike figured it out. Like, this
Yeah.
will wick away to sweat. It's, you know, but you could have been using natural stuff forever. Yeah, so very cool to see you there. So we've jumped ahead. So I noted you had art in odd places. You had a show in New York in 2021, maybe before COVID, maybe after. You had some other things, and you don't really populate a lot of social media, so your posts for your music are sporadic, but I'm guessing that's not a huge... I'm not saying it shouldn't be or that it's not enough, but it's when I look at the length of your material, you'll post a 15-minute song for the synthesizer. That's sort of out of the ordinary. So you're almost like posting albums when you do this.
Right.
And so if you had 20 of those a year, I'd say you're not, you know, they happen quick, or you spend some time, but you know, you're selective. And so your brand is your anchor. To me, was the website for the clothing store, and then the other things were supplemental. But Mr. Svarshik's stuff is so bizarre for me because I couldn't look away. You know, and you had the one that was 30, 40 seconds long that had the funny title to it, Heat, Meat, Sweat, Anger.
Yeah.
You know, he obviously has a louder, more brash side than what we're seeing from you here as a thing. And I think I saw part of you was Mr. Svarshik up there as, you know, the synthesizer is very aggressive. It's heavy.
Yeah.
When you let it roll. And this isn't what you grew up listening to, Depeche Mode or something. This is the guts of a synthesizer on a panel.
Right.
And you're plugging what looks like old telephone cables in, or 16-inch jacks.
Yeah.
And it rocks. I mean, it's going through a PA and an amp, and it's loud. And so it can take over the band quickly if you let it.
Oh yeah.
So you got to control that and have
I
some
remember
musicality to it.
jamming with some friends who were in a band in New York, and they exactly what you said. They really like the sounds.
Yeah.
But you just have to be careful when you're playing in a band like that. You have to know your place, and you have to pull back when it's not your time, and
Right. If you have Daryl Hall singing next to you, he's going to say, my voice is sort of primary here, friend.
So, it's like when you're using a DAW or Logic Pro or whatever, and you see the waves, it's the places where there are very few waves. That's when I come in.
Yeah. So I'm going to play a little bit of Drowz, D-R-O-W-Z. And Frank, we'll splice this in, but I'm just going to do this. This is off of SoundCloud, Drowz. And we can hear this, but we'll put the actual audio in. So I'll take a break here so we can listen to this. But I'm going to listen to it here so we can have something to talk about. So this is raw synthesized noise that you then mix and then you work on. But they're lengthy, and I found it unnerving at parts, but it's interesting because a lot of it is not beat driven. And the synthesizer will get a beat or a drift that is not something you can tap your foot to or even hum along to. And it's obviously what you and the machine are interacting and doing at that point. And so it's postmodern for sure. So we could start to give labels to this, but when you do it, but you'll put in some samples. So one song had some stuff I recognized, stuff I didn't recognize. Then there's a beat, and your underlying synthesizer tracks may be counter to the beat. But it's a real interesting setup because it's not Pro Tools. You're not feeding beats in through a program. You're doing raw synthesized sounds with panels and the board and the cables. And so no one could copy these unless AI can copy it. So maybe AI can copy what you do, but it still wouldn't be yours. It would be a slightly different version of AI doing you, and you'd be the input for it. So it's very unique. And so these songs are not, they're on SoundCloud. They're not copyable. It's not a cover of My Sweet Lord or something. It's, it may be sampled in there, but so it's very interesting. And to see you do it live, a lot of it's, it's going to be what it is. It's ad hoc. Exactly. But you know how to do it. And I could do the opening sound for Rush's Tom Sawyer here, but I'm not going to because it doesn't call for it in this moment. We're not, doing covers night or something, but you have that optionality, right?
Yeah, my first approach to that, when I first got into the modular synthesizer, building your own synth kind of
So
thing.
that's what you call what you're doing? It's a modular synth player?
Yeah. It's actually called the Euro rack format. So
Euro rack. It's the board in front of you is the rack you're talking about?
Yeah, and it has a rack and you screw your modules into it.
Right. That's what we had Andrew do here, and he had Tunlute was the name of his rack.
Yeah, I watched that. I have some of the same modules he has.
Yeah.
So I guess the Euro rack part of it is just like that's the format. Because there could be another format where the modules are bigger or smaller, and you rack them in a different system. But so that's
helpful information. So Euro rack. Yeah. So I'm sure there's clubs and there's probably associations or there's probably gatherings online where you can talk like, hey, I can't seem to have connectivity, or how would you set up these 20 things that I have here?
I actually got into it by accident because I was into synthesizers, like with the keys and tactile sounds, and I was reading product reviews, and I read this review that said the Make Noise Maths, which is this module. I didn't know. I thought it was a synthesizer. So I ordered it because it had good reviews, and I had it shipped to me in Armenia. And I get there, and it's just like this aluminum plate with the knobs and the electronics on the back and a cable hanging. So there was no power. I didn't realize you had to have a case and power for this. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, I still want it. So I bought the smallest case I could buy, and then you have this.
So what years are we talking now? 2018, 2019?
2015.
Okay, so you're now you could be a partner in a law firm doing this as opposed to a beginner. So you have 10 years of mistakes and learning around it.
Right,
so
right.
Immigration started to move into the rear view as you started to grow competency with the synthesizer plate. So now you have several careers you've gone through, but this one seems to have put you on stages.
Right.
And has art exhibits.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you have the fashion thing. So everything sort of overtook itself in these as you hit the road with the wife and found things to do in a different way. But the fusion of fashion and music came late, but came heavy is what I'm sensing as I'm not trying to speed this up, but I'm starting to get the pieces here now. It's all, you're overseas. You got the comfort of movement overseas. You helped people do it. You mastered that. Now you walk around freely as a free man in free countries or less free countries, giving advice on how to do it and how not to do it. But at the same time, you have this fusion of what you wanted to do, which is fashion. And we're looking at an example here that we haven't talked about yet. And then there's this music thing now that, like you said, your priority is fashion, but you've created this persona of fashion and music, right?
Yeah.
Several, in fact.
Yeah. Different. I guess I create characters, or I get into character, and they seem to work, I guess, and.
Yeah. So how about if we do this? How about if we take a break? Use facilities or get something to snack on, and then come back and talk about both the fashion, and maybe we'll bring some stuff closer over here, and you can talk about how you assemble this, and then you can talk about the characters maybe as we're just pattering and talking back and forth.
Sure.
So you said Mr. Svarshik is welder in Russian.
Yeah.
We're back. We took a short break, and we're going to talk about music and fashion. But you just showed me something you're working on, so maybe we could pull that over. I'll slide it over to you. That is a guitar body, and this is a kit of some type that you have, and this is what you're working on. But this is part of the Tractor JP world that you can see online. And so, is that leather?
Yeah, it's a leather-bound Fender
Telecaster, Stratocaster,
Telecaster. Yeah,
Telecaster. Frank has one of those. I don't.
Yeah, because I'm a leather worker, and
so that's what your jacket is made out of.
Yeah.
So
same grade of leather, actually.
And so you have leather, and so is the sleeve one solid piece of leather, or is it leather around something?
It's a solid piece. It's two-tone because of the pattern. This is called the top sleeve and the under sleeve.
Okay.
But in the pattern, it's two pieces, so I chose two different types of leather. This is a hair on hide.
Oh, nice.
It's actually calf, but they must bleach the hell out of it, and then they paint it to look like a zebra. But it's not zebra, it's cow.
And then you have lining inside, and you put zippers and buttons on it. So that's all stuff you do?
Yeah, it's people, because there are a lot of people that will go to a thrift store, buy an old leather jacket for like $15, and then they'll paint it.
Right.
And I get that question a lot.
And I was going to ask you that, but when you were putting this out together in the hall, like, that's not an old jacket that you just painted on.
No, this is it's a process called tooling.
Tooling, Tooling, just tooling.
Yeah. Okay. So you take a knife and you transfer your artwork. So this was a PDF of a cowboy on a horse.
Okay.
And you print it, and then you wet the leather and you trace it lightly. Trace the image onto the leather, and then you go through and cut into what you've traced.
With that like scalpel like thing you had in your hand there, right?
No, I didn't bring my other
Okay,
tools.
that's all right.
That scalp, that's just an X-Acto knife.
So you stand over the piece of leather and you cut into it.
You cut into it, and then you bevel it to kind of separate it and get these lines, and then paint it.
So how much experience? So to get up to 2015, you really hadn't done a lot of freehand drawing or a lot of the skill of not designing but of rendering something, right?
Right.
How did you pick this up? I mean, it's 10 years ago, so it's a mature art now. But how did you do that?
So actually, I was a fashion designer, but in 2017. I took a course in New York for leather work because there are differences when you are sewing fabric like denim or jersey net or whatever. There are differences than of sewing stretch fabrics or woven fabrics that, compared to sewing leather. And I wanted to learn about the differences, so I took an evening course at FIT in New York.
Where's that? Is that like in the 20s on the east side? Or west side?
It's in the garment district.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, that's like a huge series of buildings, I think, right?
Yeah.
That was a cool spot.
I think there's even a walkway that goes over the two streets and connects them together. So I took I think it was a 6-week or 8-week leather garment construction course, and there was about 20 students in the course, and the teacher, Karen Groen, was an accomplished sort of leather designer. She had sold, she had told us she had sold jackets to, what's the guy from Aerosmith? Steven Tyler.
Yeah.
So, basically it's, I learned just enough to get me going, because I wanted to make leather jackets for a while, and I was wrapping up my immigration business. And
where were you living at this point? In New York, or did you go to take a course there?
No. Okay. So my wife and the UN job brought us to New York.
Okay.
We missed the Armenia part. That's we talked about Ukraine, but Armenia was the next country we lived in, and then we moved to New York. And I decided to get back into fashion.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry for skipping that.
Yeah. Oh, I just didn't come up. That's all.
But 13, 14, you're on a stint. She's at the UN Armenia. You're there, and you got the bug now. You've had it, but now you're going to get it out and start doing your thing. And
right. We had our second child, and I thought, I'm not going to do immigration consulting anymore, because it requires that you sometimes wake up at 2 a.m. to call an employee overseas or whatever, just the commitment.
Yeah.
I had to let it go. So I decided to get back into fashion and to upgrade my skills to learn about leather. And I did. And my project at school was, I really put a lot into it. And I think the teacher was impressed. The sewing and putting the jacket together, I was comfortable with, but I wanted to make the jacket's appearance be unique and personal. So the tooling on jackets is something that I'm not the only person that does it, but it's not as common. I did that course. I made my school project. I got good grades on it. And then after I was finished the course, I found a shared space in Brooklyn. It's called Brooklyn Shoe Space. And I bought a membership there. So they had all the tools and stuff that you need. And,
wow, so it's like a cooperative.
Yeah.
For designers.
Yeah. So I rented a locker. It was like $300 a month.
That's cool.
And you could just store your stuff there, and I'd go there and chat with the other. Most of the people there were shoemakers. They had a lot of lasts and shoemaking equipment, but I was doing jackets, and I just kept making more and making each one unique and kind of wild, I guess, colorful. And I really got encouraged by my peers and people in New York that saw my stuff. So I decided to just keep going, and that was.
Is there a point of no return in this? So, like, you have the Telecaster body here. You know, does an error result in a catastrophe? Because it's razor blades and leather, right?
Right.
It's not erasers and paint, or you can layer over it. You sort of cut at your peril, right? And so there's skill, and that's with every craft, right? It's same with playing music, is you got to have the skill to keep going forward. But is it a high concentration thing for you when you're in, or do you just sort of lose yourself in it, or how does it work now?
Yeah, it's very right-brained activity. So I when I get in the zone, I don't do a whole lot of talking. Listen to music is fine, but I don't, like for any of my jackets, I don't have them sketched out. I don't know where I'm going with them.
Yeah.
I might have a theme, like they have themes, but I've tried to say, like, I just want to have a jacket and I just want it to be black, but I get started on it and something else comes up and I'll modify it, and they end up it'll be a black jacket with colored flowers on it or something, just because so I just kind of go with how I'm feeling. Or
so do you name them?
Yeah,
is that
a lot
name,
of them.
is it like, are you wearing Bessie, and that's Toto, and that's Skyscrapers? Is it different?
I don't name all of them, but some of them have names.
I thought I saw that on the website, is why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
I thought there was names, or maybe there wasn't.
There's the bushmeat jacket.
Right.
Sugar daddy jacket.
Okay.
And,
yeah. That's
some of them I haven't named yet.
Yeah,
So.
that's sort of cool. That's sort of cool, I think, when you're buying unique art. I assume there's paintings that, apart from having their name. So you're reaching out for some books here that you brought in today. So this one is...
it kind of ties into the FIT days.
Fashion Institute Canada, Montreal.
No, FIT is the one in New York.
New York, 27th Street. Okay, yeah.
So I was in their library looking at trying to get ideas for what to do with leather jackets. And I came across this cowboy boot book.
The Cowboy Boot, it's called. It's Tyler Beard. That seems like a name that I know, and Jim Arndt. And it has cowboy boots and a lot of designs on it. And there's two dudes on the back that look cowboyish. So you flipped through this. This was something that you picked up along the way?
Yeah, and, I just started saying, I don't want to make cowboy boots. I do one day want to learn how to make cowboy boots, but I don't want to do that right now. I want to make jackets, stick with the jackets. So I just a lot of my jackets I'll use inspiration out of here.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I can see a couple of the clearly Western thing. There's a nice what looks to be like a headdress from an American Indian.
Yeah. So
okay.
I refer back to this book a while, and then another.
He's going to hand you that coffee there. I'm sorry, just he doesn't make appearances all that regularly.
Thank you.
There you go. You can just grab it out of there. We'll cut this out, or not. We may catch you spilling this all over yourself.
And another pivotal sort of
saddle maker to the stars. Oh, this looked like a Buddha when I was upside down over there. I was like, what is he showing me? Saddle maker to the stars, the leather and silver art of Edward Boland. So he's obviously a leather and silver art maker. And if I flip through here, I see belts and gun holders, and wow, the silver work is crazy here, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So this guy,
Saddle.
Edward Boland, I think he was
Boots.
Czech or maybe he was Polish, but American, Eastern European descent. American, goes to make leather jackets and saddles for Hollywood stars.
Yeah, that looks elaborate.
And I just loved the pairing leather with metals. I think.
Did you stumble on that, or was that something you saw repeatedly throughout your life that you identified as you got more into your fashion sense?
Well, the book itself, I stumbled upon, and then I realized, okay, I've seen this before because, you know, I remember watching the Lone Ranger movies, and I had a Lone Ranger poster in my bedroom when I was a kid, and Edward Boland did the saddle for the black and white Lone Ranger movies, which are
silver saddle, right, or a silver thing on it.
So I thought I'd really like, you know, metal and leather together, but I don't want to do like the biker jacket with a bunch of studs, because that does look nice, and that again is like the luster of the metal and the contrast with the matteness or the less lustrous look of leather. So I set out to do a jacket that was inspired by some of these saddles, because I was like, I'm never going to have a horse. I'm never going to have one of those saddles. So, but I want a jacket that looks like those saddles.
Boy, that's like a weird moment in being an artist or a designer, where the thing you want to build, you're not going to. It has no utility for you, right? So this is just a complete lark. Like, if I do a saddle, I have no right mind of selling, because I don't know how saddles work. I'm just going to make something that may not even work on a horse. You like it, and so you're like, all right, so I'll take saddle imagery or saddle concepts, the stirrup or something. Yeah, something that whatever the thing is, the pommel or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're at a crossroads where, like, yeah, what do? Are you an artist or a craftsman? Or are you both? Right. Or are you a horrible craftsman but a great artist, and you have a saddle that can't be used on a horse but looks badass? Yeah, what a weird thing. I don't know where else that happens. Like, you would never do that with a scalpel for a doctor. Like, this is the greatest scalpel, but you can't use it on a patient because it's utterly useless. Like, why is it a great scalpel? You'd say, look at the design, but it's slippery. You can't grip it or something. Like, right, I curved it and it doesn't work. You can't cut with it. But like the saddle has, you could see if it wasn't working.
I guess it's like I want to see something that doesn't exist, so I have to make it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but the influence is there. It's taken from.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a modern problem. Like, we've seen it all, we think.
Yeah.
We're going to take things to a natural extension of, like I said earlier, postmodernism for your music. Like, it's after the Beatles, or, it's like all the great melodies are done. Now we're sampling and we're creating digital sounds and beats and stuff that's
textures. And
right. And so you had that dilemma in fashion. Like, I want to do this. I guess it's not the same.
I guess I had to mature enough to realize that, because, maybe my first approach with fashion was like, I'm going to be like the next Ralph Lauren or whatever, but that already exists, right? So,
right.
How do you take you have to take all these influences and create something that is maybe hasn't been done before. It's hard to do.
So how should we look at your jackets here now? Should we put them here, or could I have Frank hand you each one and you could sit there and hold on to it and show it to us? Would that be okay?
Yeah, we can go
Frank?
one by one.
Frank, could you grab the jacket and just sort of walk them over? I guess I could do that too, but we got a lot of stuff on the floor here, so I don't want. If you sat there, he could hand it to you.
Should I just stay here?
Yeah, and I think then we could just have him walk back and forth. So how about just one jacket at a time, Frank?
Yeah. Another thing I get is, your suits, your jackets, they look like nudie jackets. Have you heard of nudie?
No.
Nudie Khan, he was a designer that...
Oh, okay. I thought nudie, N-U-D-I-E, like a nude naked person. So nudie's a person.
Yeah, Nudie Khan.
No, I don't know nudie.
Do you know Graham Parsons?
The musician?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the suits he wore?
I can't say I've ever seen an image of Graham Parsons.
So Elvis also wore nudie. Western style with rhinestones and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, your jackets remind me of."
All right, good. Is he okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Frank. So we're doing double shifts here. So, can you see that on the camera, Frank? Okay. So we're looking at one of your jackets. Does this have a name?
I call this the bushmeat jacket.
Bushmeat jacket.
It's on my website.
Okay. I'm going to move that cough.
I was also fascinated with, maybe because I'm attracted to colorful things, but comic books, cowboy comic books. There's Ghost Rider.
Those are actually on there. Yeah. Is that plastic?
It's epoxy.
Epoxy.
So
yeah.
I made the molds, cut out some comic book. I think they were just prints from the internet. They weren't actual comic books.
Yeah.
And then covered them in epoxy so that I could attach them to the jacket.
It's actually screwed in there, huh?
Yeah. If I were to do this again, because this is, no one else is doing jackets like this, so I had to figure out this way. I wouldn't use these plastic screws. I would use. I found other hardware that would be more suitable. But anyways, it's got a little bit of zebra and lion or tiger on the back.
Hooded horseman, epoxy thing.
Yeah.
Other characters I don't recognize, but clearly are cowboys, Western.
Yeah, this one needs repaired.
Yeah, I think I broke that one earlier carrying it in.
No, I wore it last night.
There you go.
Yeah.
So are those, like on the other one on your sleeve, those are different types of leather throughout the jacket, and then you color them?
It's all the same. It's all like called vegetable tan leather.
Okay.
It's untreated leather that is easy. You can tool it. You can paint it. So, it's basically more versatile, and I use it primarily. There's different versions. Vegetable tan leather could mean pigskin, cow, or sheep. I use mostly cow, but I do have some sheepskin jackets as well.
Okay.
So
can we swap out the next one? Is Rath here? Or are we here? I'll take that. All right, there we go. Thank you, Frank. Doing 3 jobs. Nice. All right, so he's closing the buttons.
So we're kind of going a little bit backwards chronologically.
All right, do you want to switch order?
No, it's okay. This is the Sugar Daddy jacket. I drew inspiration from an old car.
Oh, there it is. The 2 books from Ted's. You got the cars and the fashion right there.
57 Chevy Bel Air. Yeah, I
loved it.
I just think they're just.
Yeah.
Some of those older cars are just gorgeous, and it's like colorful with the shine and the luster of the metal. I thought I wanted a jacket that's kind of the same color scheme, but I wanted before doing this jacket and the bushmeat jacket, I was doing metal plackets that were engraved. But
okay.
I have to get the engraving done for me because I'm not an engraver.
on the metal.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would work on these other projects while waiting for my engraver to send me the metal. So this one is stained glass, and
Wow.
I took a stained glass course from this girl in Brooklyn, and then I realized I didn't want to do stained glass. I was doing enough things, so I just had her do the pieces for me. And
yeah, so you got a bunch of them there, huh?
yeah, so she did the set for me, and then I attached them to this jacket.
It's funny you use them so lapels, pockets, but not the body, right? So you have this idea that they're sort of
it's just like I guess,
functional.
Yeah, but just ornamental,
right?
I could do a jacket with silver everywhere because.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you don't put it on the body, so it seems like it has a function in your mind, right?
Right.
Yeah. Can you grab another?
The function, I guess, though, is
decorative.
Decorative.
Right, but it's not just random, so it's almost like a military precision. It's always in the same spot, or that's maybe your thing. This is the lapel ornamentation.
This one has.
That's the metal.
By the way, I just wanted to say, I won't do another stained glass jacket because they're very problematic.
Yeah,
it looks great. It looks better on. All these jackets look better when they're on people and not on a hanger. But I remember just getting into a taxi and then kind of hitting the door too hard, and then it broke. So I had to like cover the glass in epoxy anyways. So it's sealed now and it won't break, but it's not a good idea.
Okay. So this one you have then is, what do you call this? Betty Boop?
Geez. This one I don't think I've named this one. Pinup Girls.
Pinup Girls.
Yeah. I'm going to actually try this one on. Just give me a second.
All right.
I'll put this one
Okay. Now we're looking like a fashion room here. Got gear. Pinup Girls. Throw me your underwear.
Yeah, so this is the Pinup Girls jacket. It's the first jacket I changed the pocket style because I had these two corners going on most of my jackets prior to that.
Right, and usually up top before, right? Yeah.
And I decided to do something else. And again, I just looked at this book and looked.
Well, it's funny because it's you're working through it, right?
Right.
Huh,
yeah, it's like I'm continuously developing products. I don't do anything the same.
That one would be hard to play guitar in, right? So if you're developing the products, you put what are those lariats? I don't know what you'd call those things on the side, and then you got the
conchos.
Conchos, right? Then you got the metal rubbing on the back of your guitar, and that one.
Yeah.
So I would want the pocket protectors on the bottom.
Right.
But that's awesome. That one looks thinner. That one actually looks lighter and less heavy than the one that I just put on the floor here. But it's cool. I like those plates on the back are extreme. They're almost like angel wings if you ask me to describe what I'm looking at here now. It's a sort of evolution, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's also it's based off human anatomy, right? So you have the male figure, and you want to put bits of silver, but I could put them in some things in the middle of the back, but shoulders are just a good place to put things.
Yeah.
Lapels also.
Yeah.
What are they there for?
Yeah. Right. What are they there for? I'm sure it
put stuff on them.
Right. Awards. Yeah, that's badass. So how about the next one then? Is Rath over there? Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'll be careful not to break, like we learned, the stained glass. Okay. All right, so we got this one. This looks like the most
this is
cowboy, but not really. I mean, it's awesome leather, right? This is brown. So is this the color it shows up as, or no? You say it's tanner. It shows up tanner.
Well, it's actually I've changed the hue of these flowers on purpose.
Okay, right.
It's just a very I like little subtle contrasts, like the difference between white and an off-white, and then you pair them together. It looks kind of cool, I think.
Now this has to be later in your collection.
This is the first.
Because that is clearly the most artistic to me.
Yeah, I had the silver made for my engraver, and he sent them to me in New York, and then we moved to Bangkok. And I wasn't set up. Anyways, I made this about a year. I've been in Bangkok 2 years. I finished this jacket about a year ago, so it is my most recent.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because this is, the artwork on this is vastly different and dramatically more articulated.
It's more conservative in a way. It's more in line with traditional Western leather tooling and the silver compared to the pinup girls, which is like still common Western themes, but maybe not with so much color in it.
But even that mallard looks improved. Yeah, those are beautiful in the back. Are those, what flowers are those?
I don't know, but
periwinkles.
The style is based off of fiddleheads.
Okay.
American fiddleheads.
Yeah, so you've seen it. So yeah, it's not some fictitious thing you made up. It's a
it's a scroll work, but the flowers, I don't know if they are invented. I don't know if fiddleheads actually have flowers, but
I like that trim, the sort of the plastic trim on the outside of the threaded.
This?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's plastic or leather.
It's leather. It's lacing. Yeah.
The lacing's cool. I mean, and it has different types. So there, it's a broader one, and then as you go down, it's tighter, and then on the sleeve, it has a different look to it. It's just very cool.
Yeah, they tend to gather or spread depending on the curves.
Right. I'm sure.
But if you look at my older jackets, I have a more simple lacing.
Yeah.
And I've discovered a more kind of ornate and a little bit extra work, but I've improved my lacing style, and there are even more types.
It looks like a thread runs through the middle where you're going around, so it looks much more fulsome, right?
Right.
And then you got, what do you call those things on?
Fringes.
Fringes, yeah.
Yeah. I made them really long on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That would be hard to play with that one.
Yeah.
Probably not. Sure, there's a way.
You know the Midnight Ramblers?
Yeah.
The bass player played with this on New Year's Eve.
There it is. That was that speaker box. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Beautiful. That's a work of art right there. That belongs in a museum. I mean, that's the one you break out once a year to wear, but you put back in the museum.
Yeah.
I guess. It's funny because it's a museum piece and it doesn't have history.
Right.
You know, it's on its own. It's not the gown Marilyn wore. It's a museum piece to start with. Yeah, we got one right behind you. What do you call this bad boy? Well, those are the biggest wings on the back there, huh? All the roses.
So this is the first jacket that I put engraving on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this was, if we did it in sequence, this one we'd have pulled out first to show you, what is that, 2018, 2017?
2018.
Okay, but pretty bold.
Yeah, it's...
Boy, the right-hand side of it looks very traditional, though, as a leather jacket, right? Yeah, I can see it's sort of more tentative even in the strokes you took, and the lining inside almost looks like a...
There's no fringes on this one.
Right.
I don't know why I decided not to, but I guess... but, you know, I've made these jackets with... so that I have a zipper in the lining, so if you needed to take off the plates, you could get back in there and unscrew
see. Inside.
So this is copper, which is cheaper to have engraved because the engraver's gonna buy the other two that have engraving are sterling silver. This is copper, so it was cheaper, but it still looks cool. And I could take them off and clean them and have them shine, but I think I want to wait till they turn green. You know, you could
patina
them.
Sure, you could have someone hand do it. very carefully for 3 hours. The toothbrush or a Q-tip or something, right? I think you burn that bridge when you get there. Yeah, that's cool. I like that sort of pressed thing that's on the back and on your upper left hand. This sort of that gauzy feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's done by hand and knife?
Yeah, it's called a basket weave.
Yeah,
technique.
basket weave. That's exactly what I probably should have said, but it looks cool. And it looked cool in the back, and I like that it's not all one, right? It's throughout.
Yeah, it's
All right, let's move on. Let's grab one more. Thanks, Frank. Sorry about this. Is it okay to just lay them here? I will make sure not to yank them apart and rip off things.
I lay them like that all the time.
All right, good. All right. This looks super Western here. This guy, pork chop.
Yeah, this is an old classic, but people love it, and I like the look. It's more, it's a rock and roll jacket. It needs a repair too. I've just noticed it's coming.
That's all right. Looks like
And
Evel Knievel too.
And the lining, I just want to tell people, I make jackets with lining and without, but if you want a jacket that lasts longer, go without lining.
Interesting.
I'll tell you why. The lining, this is a satin silk, or it might be a satin polyester. It's a very thin material, and when you sew it to leather, they're
not competitive.
leather's going to kick its ass.
Yeah.
The leather's going to last forever.
Right.
And I get people saying, "Oh, can you fix my leather jacket?" And I know exactly what is wrong with it. It's the lining.
Yeah.
But anyways.
That's interesting. Well, that's a good observation to share.
But also, a jacket with lining just slides on your back better. This one, I did this silver work myself. It was just a template. This isn't engraved. It's meant to look like it's engraved, but it's not. Just because I wanted some metal on the jacket.
That was your first tries with that, huh?
Yeah. Did the twisted wire, and I put a cabochon on there as well.
Cabochon.
I took a jewelry course just to learn how to
do
that. But now I'm at the point where it's like, okay,
buy it.
I'll do the leather.
Yeah.
I'll get a jeweler to do my silver pieces.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of like dessert. There's a dessert chef.
Exactly.
Right? You're gonna start to.
Although I did buy a bunch of engraving equipment, and I'm not going to sell it. It's a noble
idea, but you got to stick some wheelhouse. Or again, you get back and you're building a saddle, right? And then you're like, I'm going to get the wooden stirrups on here, or the silver stirrups. Yeah, here's that furry thing again. There we go. Gotcha. Yanking your headset off. Trying to figure out if we even need the headset.
This jacket doesn't have a name.
So how do you get the purple so purple? Is just purple color?
It's a spirit-based dye.
Yeah.
I don't know what the pigment is. Someone asked me that last week. So it's alcohol with a purple pigment.
You just buy raw and you mix it and you try it, practice it on a piece of paper?
Yeah, or a scrap piece of leather.
Yeah.
This one has a picture of me. That picture.
Right. That is indeed on the sleeve.
Yeah. And I transferred it because it's so big. I just had the sleeve on a table, flat, unsewn, the top sleeve, and then I put that image on a projector.
Right.
And then traced it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess the whole idea is like, the people that have pictures of themselves. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I'm being kind of like tongue-in-cheek humor, but it's like.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could let people flip through their magazine, they'd see where this goes, and they'd see Dr. Svarshik, and they'd see you in the bathtub in plastic bath, right?
Take a bath in plastic.
Right, and would look at your postings on Facebook about current political crisis. I think there's a fair amount of critique going on here.
Yeah.
boy, the browns, the two jackets with the browns in it, you're really killed. I mean, these look great. The depth and tone of these colors.
So moving to Bangkok prompted me to work more on a biker style jacket.
Yeah, that's certainly one.
There is a bike culture here. I mean, there's motorbikes everywhere, but
yeah, it's good for the highway.
Yeah.
You don't want those lariat things slapping you in the face, so everything would hold tight.
This is the Stampede jacket. In Calgary, every summer there's a big party, a big rodeo. It's called the Stampede.
Calgary Stampede.
I went back last summer, and I finished this jacket just in time to go back and stomp around the Stampede with it.
Did anyone offer to buy it off your back?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not a good marketer. I need to.
Right.
I need to
or not
sell some of these and
maybe
make
not
some more.
Yeah, that's cool, Mr. Stampede. Oh, nice.
Sounds like a stripper name, but
no, it doesn't. It sounds like you're Mr. Stampede. You are the man at the Stampede. I like the kicking horse on the sleeves. That's a great rendering, and it's in the starburst or the sunburst or whatever you'd call that from behind. So it's
that was a hat show print inspired.
Nice.
So
I think what we'll do is we'll hang all these back up, and then we'll take some footage of that. Frank is good at that. I'm not so good at that, but we'll get all these so you can see them together and see them on the rack, because that was pretty cool and walked in. And then we'll show you the one that's hanging on the
yeah, it goes together with
guitar case,
other accessories.
Yeah, and you'll have to explain the guitar case, but you have metal accoutrement on there. Are those form or function, or what are those for?
It's because, again, I just think metal and leather are meant to be together. So those are actually from Chatuchak Market. There's a little restaurant supply store. Those are like portion cups.
Yeah, plates.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word. Just you put plates into a guitar case with fish surrounding it, and it's just a mix of the East and the West at the highest level.
Right.
It's just crazy. Yeah, we'll show that in the footage, and then the jacket that goes with it has the Hirakami, the Japanese wave, and then the goldfish. So it's you're here. Welcome to the region. You got your own clothing line now for Asia clients, but it's definitely universal. But these are awesome, and so why don't you, if you could throw those hangers on the ground, let's sit, and then maybe we can finish this part up. The air conditioner's still on, so you may want to keep that jacket going.
Sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll leave the mess there. I think you had one other piece you didn't explain to us. Was that a bow tie, or was that something else?
Oh, I didn't even spill my coffee. That was this is a bandit mask.
Nice. Who doesn't need that? Oh, look at this. Frank, check this out. What the hell are you doing, man? It's fucking madness. You got that big piece of leather. Yeah, you're freezing. Look, he's freezing, ladies and gentlemen. I put him in an ice box, and he's been standing on his underwear, changing jackets, freezing. Sorry about that, my friend. There you go. Beautiful. Yeah, keep that on for the rest. This is more in line with the guy I met at the bar.
I contemplated, should I wear my
I know you did.
glow in the dark glasses and all the whole shebang?
I know you did. I'm sure it was the hardest decision of your week because you just played last night with it on. But yeah, it's great. So, I mean, this is the guy that I met. For those of you who've sat through this whole podcast up to this point, I met him in the bar and he was ready to go. But one of his characters, Mr. Svarshik, the welder, wears a green jumpsuit or a translucent jumpsuit, or
it's fluorescent yellow.
Fluorescent yellow. He was also a Canadian ice skater who wears a welder's mask that has digital effects in the eye area and the ears, maybe, and you can flip it up and down, which you do at times, but. Reminiscent of the mass murdering generation of American horror films, but not at all, because it's not a violent, quick-moving person, but there is some humor to it. And so all of a sudden, Jason has this doppelganger who's not a doppelganger anymore because it has a separate personality and doesn't look like him, right? So here you got the mask, so that's Lone Ranger-ish or Batman-ish, and we sort of know it's you underneath because we can see you. So you can't get too personality change, but this other guy is a different personality, right?
Yeah, I guess I did it backwards. I should have done the mask and then without the mask.
I don't know. I don't know which works better because I think you can have more product lines as a completely different person, right? He can have a gender identity issues or whatever he wants, and he can change all over the place, right? But
yeah, when I get too old for this stuff, can I just hire some young guy to do it?
You can. Just version 2, right? Or if the jackets don't fit for some reason, you just get a new.
Yeah. Hey, Joey, you got Mr. Svarshik concert at 7.
What am I playing? I'll play in the back. You'll be the Wizard of Oz show. You're behind the curtain, and he just has the mask on. That's it. That's postmodern. It's not even the guy playing anymore. You just decided not to take the stage. You could wear like cargo pants. Just be comfortable while you're playing.
Yeah, total Wizard of Oz.
So when you play, you have made some masks, some leather masks that cover your cheeks and sort of give you a bird-like appearance. Or I don't know. To me, it looked like a bird in the one video I saw.
It's funny because...
Or just a face shield, right?
I started making those masks that cover your whole face except for your mouth, right? And then COVID came. And
you were backwards. You were so far ahead of the cycle, you missed it. You should have the mask on first. Oh, is that comical?
What? This mask isn't COVID approved?
No, it's on your eyes. You could have made 4 of the mouth covering ones and then had them mass produced in China and sent around the world. The Mr. Svarshik line. It doesn't stop any transmission, but it's 3-inch thick leather. Oh, God.
Yeah, the masks, they came because I have a lot of scrap leather. And,
right, the smallest pieces.
Yeah, usually the legs. I think this is a leg of a cow.
It's a little wider. Yeah. That's so fun. It's utilitarian on some level. You just were making the rest of the outfit with the leftovers. Yeah, finger covers or something. Right. Belt with, ankle bracelets. Well, that's amazing. I mean, it's very cool. And the small briefcase with the fish on it, with the plate, is just a briefcase for work? Is that for your pedals or your boards, your panels?
It's actually unfinished, so I could line it with foam. It doesn't have the lining, like it doesn't have an interior really.
Yeah.
But just because I set it aside, then I worked on the guitar case.
So is it the cover is leather and it closes, and there's not something that you had to put underneath it? It's just a.
I start out by taking a box made out of. What's it called?
Cardboard?
Not cardboard. It's a particle board.
Oh, okay. Something more permanent.
It's stuff that it's light enough that picture framers use it.
Okay. So you use that for the framing.
Yeah. I make a box. I glue the box corners together. Then
nice. Yeah.
And then I cut it in half.
Okay. We'll show this. We'll show this in there. So it's the same for your for the guitar case. You have the locks on it. So we'll insert that in here so you can see that. Mm-hmm. Well, those are form and function there. I mean, you've really sort of advanced your craft to something that you can walk down the street with and hold items in, which is not, it could be artistic plus, right? I guess it's a Louis Vuitton, right? I mean, it's the same thing, right? Fancy.
Wouldn't you just like to see a band show up at a gig and their guitar cases match their jackets? Like, one thing I haven't done is like a drum case.
Well, that's such a good observation, because I bought a guitar and you know what it's like to live overseas. You go home and you lose your mind on gear, and you're like, I can get this stuff that I'm used to having because I live there. Yeah. So I went to the Guitar Center in LA and got a guitar, and I said, boy, I have so much stuff that I bought. I bought keyboard and stuff I was bringing a lot back. I said, I'd really just like to carry something on. I said, how about if I leave the case here? He said, the I said, you idiot, that case is almost as expensive as the guitar. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, it really is a nice case. And I thought like, yeah, I'd want to bring the case on stage. And I'd never thought about that before.
Yeah.
Right. But this for sure would be a prop. Like you'd walk on, you'd have an entrance.
I also think as home decor, would you rather have a case that's kind of like pretty or just your bog standard black case sitting in your living room?
I mean, it's always an abomination to have cases sitting around your living spaces, right? Yeah. God, if it looked pretty, you could just set it up in the corner and it looks, right. Yeah, totally legit. I get it. I
thought if, there's these home furnishing stores on Sukhumvit, I might take a case down there and see if they want to try and sell one for me.
They certainly, the buyer of that would buy it as art and not as a guitar holder.
Right. You can put photos in it or whatever.
Just show it and it'd look like they rock.
Right.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could see you the making 50,000 of them and not one ever holding a guitar. Right. The irony, it's like the saddle. No, you can't buy that for your horse. You can't ride it. I didn't measure it. It just looks like a saddle.
The only thing I just can't see myself making that many of them. They take time, but one thing I want to get around to doing is maybe finding. I know in Chiang Mai there are leather workers and there are people that need to work, and if I can teach or get people helping me make these things, would be then I could supply a furniture store with thousands. But
yeah, I'd still like to know your freehand was in there.
Yeah, I guess
right, and then that just makes it.
Right.
Depending on your fame, then the price goes up. But
right.
It's like a Banksy or something.
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you. That's a compliment.
Well,
I didn't. I didn't. I also wasn't aware that maybe people would want that be made by my own hand. Sometimes when I say that I didn't do the engraving myself, people are like, "Oh, well."
No, it's ludicrous. I mean, it's sampling as well as you're either into that or not. But I mean, a Tractor JP original, that would be, I'm sure it will be. Yeah. At some point. Yeah. I mean, that jacket right there is just beyond belief, and we'll show it to you. It's a matching 3-piece set. That's just beyond calculation of how cool it is. So explain to me, how we get all the way to, plastic bath. Take a bath with plastic is one of the scarier things I've seen, and it wasn't designed to be scary, but it scared me. And I'm going to turn it on here just so we can have some of the ambiance of the music.
Sure.
I think I've got it on. I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
Take a bath. Take a bath in plastic. Take a bath in plastic. Take a bath in plastic.
Oh, that's YouTube, isn't it?
Oh, YouTube, yeah. Take a bath with plastic. It just was. It's so uncomfortable. You're in a bathtub with plastic, wearing a mask and a cowboy hat, and it's not R-rated at all. Even it's just and it doesn't even shock the sensibilities. It is just the most uncomfortable sounds and proposition, and the environmental commentary is obvious. The colors are insane. And the overall commentary, it's a minute long or so. I would say you've lost your mind, but it's so coherent if you just look at it. And when you look at it in the context of your art, it's you sort of can't wear this one, but you can certainly see the fashion statement in this here. And it's just, I don't know if you've tied all this together yet. I think we're still following you, and you're showing us things, and you're not offering clear explanations, but you have your destination is clear to you, and you go to it. And I'm not even saying you explain it to us or can explain it to us, but it was so staggering to watch us take a bath with plastic, and I thought, this guy's lost his mind, but he hasn't, because it makes perfect sense to me that this was in your continuum. So I say wow to you, and maybe we'll have another podcast. I don't want to go too deeply into this, or even try and attach explanations, because I think it's bizarre and new for me. And maybe there's a lot of this out there. I would doubt it. I don't think so. But what's going on in your head? Because this is an older piece, right? This isn't.
Yeah, this is in New York. Probably 2019, 2018, 2019. And, New York's, I guess, why did I do that? It's a very intense city. So it has everything every other city has. But yeah, the plastic, I guess it's environmental, right? And I guess.
Yeah, this is what's going to happen to us.
Yeah, I guess it's just me saying, oh, it's not that bad.
But it's the most miserable thing in the world to watch you putting plastic trucks over your body, or whatever the hell that stuff is.
So the character, I guess, is kind of bizarre, and it's meant. Yeah, it's like.
This is.
I think he says in it, "Take a bath in plastic, you won't regret it."
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's worth.
So I guess I'm slighting environmental alarmists, but not. I don't know, not really.
But you're also saying, look, this is the most uncomfortable thing anyone's on earth is ever going to do, and I'm going to do it for you, and it's going to be comedy. So it's absolutely searing. I think both sides can use this.
Right.
Right. I think what you've done is you've made a perfect statement for everyone.
It's right on the fence.
Yeah, it's just painful, but searing. Yeah, well, good. We spent a long time in here today, so I'd like to take a break. I'd like to put this stuff back on the racks and take photos of it, and then I'd like to go. Do you still have time to take a drive out to go? It's 12:30.
I have time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What's the name of the city?
Wongwian Yai.
Wongwian Yai. And we're going to go look at. It's a supply shop or
it's a leather district.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a couple of leather schools there. We can have a coffee.
Okay. Good.
And just check it out. We talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So part 3 of the Roman Anton is a spot. This will be it, but it'll be a continuation of parts 1 and 2, the performance, which you showed us, and then the discussion. So let's break here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you wearing the mask. I'm so glad that happened. And we can get this stuff packed up and take some photos, and then we'll head over to that other part of town. So Franco, let's take a break.
Let's party.
Okay. So we're at MHA and the Cafe in Wongwian Yai.
Wongwian Yai. I think.
All right. So you would say this is where craftspeople like you who make clothing, do sewing, textiles could come to get tools? So for example, you bought these items today?
Yeah, I bought some glue because I go through a lot of glue, and needles. So that was a light shop. I'm not taking any leather home with me today. I've got enough.
And here we're at a leather school.
Yeah.
More or less, for lack of better words, someplace where you can come and get taught how to sew or paint on or work on leather, stitch leather.
Yeah, they've got some students here learning how to do hand stitching, it looks like, and punching holes in leather.
Huh.
And then there's some students' work in the display there.
And as we walked up and down the street, Frank was taking footage of us. I saw tools, hand tools. I saw products. I think to me, I asked you on the way over here, do you eat Thai food?
Yeah.
You said yes. Do you walk around Thai roads? The answer is probably yes. It's funny how there are parts of town, like in Manhattan, when you think about when the Bowery used to have all the lights, all the lighting shops.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, they still do, yeah?
Still do, yeah. And fashion. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Had their fashion area, and I think Bangkok still carries on that tradition of having parts of town where you go get your stuff.
Right.
Like when you think of the Great Swing, over there you can get a lot of religious imagery and things for prayer areas or
right.
Yeah.
Near the sports complex.
Yeah.
There's trophy shops.
Right.
And sports apparel shops.
Right.
Yeah.
More modern, but nonetheless still
I don't know if I don't know the history to this area, why it became the leather district, but there are places in Chinatown too that sell leather and tools, but it's not consolidated, so I prefer to come here.
So we've crossed the river, so we may well be in another Chinatown area over here. I didn't know this.
Yeah. I don't know, I'll have to ask my friend James. He said he used to live in this area.
But it's clear there's a lot of resource on this road, and you could spend hours looking for the better version of what you just bought, or the different version, or the sharper version, or the duller version, or the wider version, or the...
Yeah, when I first moved here in 2022, there were more shops open here, and it was kind of weird because it was like post-COVID, and then in the months after I came here, I've seen shops close, so there's less selection. There's
interesting.
Yeah.
Process elimination. I think people held on and then maybe let go when it was over and knew they could go somewhere else.
Right.
Well, it's unfortunate. You hate to see art communities sort of get their source dried up.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully some of these shops open up again with new, because monopolies can tend to price gouge and stuff like that. I don't find anyone price gouging me here, but if anything, tools are cheaper than in North America.
But I think we're closer to the source of how tools are made.
Yeah.
So if not here, China. And if China, then driven here, maybe buying in a truck, or some easier method than by sea or by plane.
Right. There are tanneries on the outskirts of Bangkok as well. I think I actually haven't been since 2013, so maybe they've closed down. But I did visit them, and it was like workers taking fresh hides, pouring a bunch of salt on them to preserve them, and they were making stacks and stacks of hides, and then they have huge tumblers where they'll, they have to soak it in acid and burn off all the hair, and then they'll tumble it or tan it to the specifications that they want.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you and I are on the same mission in some level, like seeing that source, understanding that availability, understanding its usefulness and utility. Do they have what you want?
Right.
Here, having the tools, having the space, all the struggles that just come along with this. And when you move as much as you or I have, the compromises you make along the way. Can you eat along the way? What are your other associated products that make it easier or harder?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting as you sit and think about, and I think about your Ukraine story morphing into, they didn't really need me to work for free, they just got me for free. And you figure that out, so you don't make that mistake again, right? And I'm sure we do that equally as ridiculously with the rents we pay and the phone services we get and the air conditioning charges we pay, and you just sort of get used to that. And I'm not saying it's any different than moving around Canada, but when you take out the language and add a language you don't speak, and then have the other restrictions, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But with that said, for me, I have everything here that I need, and that's a large reason why Roman Anton's easier to run here as a business.
Right.
And I think you just concurred with me on that the things you need are at a discount here, just naturally. You're not looking for discounting. This is a lot cheaper than you might have to get elsewhere.
Right.
And that's an upside for your production, your individual production, but it still doesn't address what happens if you take a different path and want to produce more or mass produce.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the closest comparison in memory is my time in New York compared to moving here.
It's a good detail for me to know you were there, because that's sort of the bright line of the top of cost, expense, and difficulty.
Yeah,
Maybe
convenient.
Tokyo or Switzerland.
You go into Midtown. The garment industry also has leather shops. Leather tools I'd have to order online, which I still wouldn't know how to do. Well, Lazada has some, but it's not. It's all you spend more time searching on. But there's the language barriers too. There's some things I want die cut,
like a process-related request with a
Yeah,
thing.
and I need a 2-ton press.
I need a 2-ton press on this. Right, and it just lost in
and I haven't
translation.
found it, so I just kind of abandoned that. But you know, I'll get around to it. But it's
Well, it's interesting because Rath and I were talking about this morning. So Rath is the star of our Kingpin movie, but Rath also is a technician, and we try to synchronize our instrument keep between gigs, and sometimes we get out of cycle, but sometimes we'll send 5, 6, 7, 8 guitars to just get fixed up and taken care of. And so it's sort of his being able to do that and then do it repeatingly with the same treatment
right.
is a huge save of time and expense and money for me. And process, you know, it's comforting to know we have our technicians, you know, our not the roadies, but our technicians locally who can take care of our instruments with us. Stuff we can't do.
Yeah.
And we can bring them in, and they won't proceed without checking. And so that language barrier I've addressed
Right.
by trying to learn some, but having Rath take care of it. And so,
Yeah.
in your instance, I know a lot of it's fail or hit or miss, right?
I've made a couple of attempts to find a certain service that I need provided, and I still haven't had any luck. It's related to the leather ties. I have a really big die. It's like a cookie cutter, right? And if you have a press,
like a shape of a
it
tie.
just, it will just cut that tie, and it has a nice finish on the edge.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But it's long, and there are loads of people with presses here, die cutting and presses here, but they have small ones. So, and I remember half a year ago coming down here and saying, "Oh, can you cut this? Can you cut these ties for me?" They're like, "No, look, your thing's too long." I'm like, "Do you know someone that can?" And they're like, "Oh, there's someone go down there." I'm like,
Yeah, it's the next step.
right. So I gotta just come with someone that's fluent and find the location, because.
Well, you've done. It seems like you've done a lot of different things since you've started up your operations here.
Yeah,
realizing you've had other countries to have false starts in, but or other starts.
Right. It's.
So what's the? Do you build Canada travel into your plans every year? Or is that done?
Well.
Take out the emergencies.
Every 2 years.
Yeah.
Because my wife gets. Just to save money, my wife gets home leave every 2 years, so they'll pay for the UN will pay for our flights there for the whole family. So, but I do want to do some personal business trips. There's the Canadian Country Music Awards.
Oh, nice.
Coming up in September, and I've had, I guess success showing up at Country Music Awards wearing one of my jackets.
Yeah.
People like, who is that guy? Why don't I? Why is he one of the musicians here? You know, people are like a deer in the headlights when they see me.
Look for Jason at the next Canadian Country Music Award.
Right. Looking. So that's Edmonton this September. I'm gonna try to go to that.
Nice.
And then there's the Cowboy Country Christmas in Las Vegas every December. So I want to. Actually, I approached them about setting up a booth there, and they curate things, and they didn't invite me. I sent them some designs. Maybe I didn't present it well enough, but
I have a feeling that's probably pretty populated.
I think I'll save the rent for the booth and just walk around and hand out my business card.
Maybe if you wore 20 jackets.
I need an entourage of models. Yeah. No, I think just one very special jacket, and I mean, I've done it before. I've gone to these things and handed out
so I think
cards.
we're having a public display of you doing your 3-year strategic plan going forward. Well, cool. So any other aspirations from the family side? Next stop London. Next stop, or could this potentially be a?
I think
Or do you not want to
like
disclose
family
that?
holidays?
No, just
Or-
staying in Bangkok long term.
So no, my wife's work kind of dictates what
yeah.
happens to us, and she gets 4 to 5 year contracts on average.
Okay.
We've got 2.5 years left here. Actually, it's going on more like 2 now. It'll be 2 years in June.
Okay.
So this is another thing that, with my lifestyle, you've started businesses before. 4 years is not enough to really move to a country and get any kind of viable business
It's hard, especially in
going.
especially in places where you've got a second language involved.
Right.
It's hard.
Another deterrent, like people always say, why don't you set up a little shop and sell your jackets or cheaper items? But I've done that before, and I know how much time it takes, and then I'll have to either let my wife go to her, she'll be going off to her career, and I'd have to stay here. That's not in the cards. So I think one day I'll have a shop in Calgary or something, somewhere somewhere at home. But
Calgary, not Montreal, and you're not going to take over Ted's? I heard the lease is up in 24 years.
I think that Ted's sold, actually.
All right. Damn you, Ted. You should have got fighter of first refusal. You should have had that rofer. Well, good. So anything else you wanted to talk about today? Anything I missed? Anything you thought, why didn't he ask me about Armenia?
Nothing's, I'll probably think of something later. But
Yeah, did we talk enough about the music? Because, we did in the car on the way over here, just music talk, but looking forward to seeing more of your shows. Looking forward to see how you integrate with bands in particular, because I've always wanted the additional sort of DJ/synth component around our music, but it's so poppy, it's sort of hard, and it's glaring when it's not good. And it's usually not good because I lose timing, especially I think of the Who, Bob O'Reilly with the synthesizer that Pete had programmed behind Bob O'Reilly. I think I would like something like that, but if you did Drowz behind me, it might make me weep openly for my love songs. So that's always tricky to find that right balance, right?
Yeah, it's the approach, is it?
Yeah, cold. Open mic night's probably not the best way to figure it out.
Right, but I think we should jam one day.
All right, we'll do that for sure. We'll do that for sure.
Yeah.
All right. All right, and when Jason, me, we're at MHA and there we go. Can't read that either. So we're here, and
I'm gonna call it Muha.
All right, Muha. All right, Frank, we're gonna walk back down the street that way and catch a couple more shops.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Otherwise, it's just B-roll. So I appreciate your coming on today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot.
It's good getting to know you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. All right.
1, 2, 3, quiet.
So normally this edge is flat,
Yeah.
and
it's
then
flat.
you run this along the
Yes,
to make
to
it
cream
groove.
it.
Ah, I see. I thought it was for texturizing. Thank you. And these,
Yeah. Still, yeah.
they're pens?
Yes.
So you put what in there? Ink?
Yeah, think inside. No, you can do it like this. For one fiber.
Okay, I don't. I saw. I thought they might. There's also lacing needle that looks like this, but these are basically pens that you put your own ink